Good evening. The Design Review Board meeting of Thank you. 2010 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Baladian.
Yes.
Mr. Garagos.
Here.
Mr. Malikian is absent. Ms. Sakai, absent. Mr. Zarifian.
Here.
Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on March 18th, 2010. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on an item not a part of this agenda? Everyone here wants to speak on an item on the agenda. Any speaker cards?
I not have everyone, so...
Okay.
If
Well, no
everyone-
one... Okay.
Okay.
Got
If anybody
that.
needs to fill out one, please fill one out. They want to...
We're down to the review calendar. Staff just has two announcements. Remember the mics. I've turned your mics on, but there's an on-off switch now. The TV people have suggested you all just leave them on all the time. And also, we will be sending out another reminder regarding your economic interest statements that are due on April 1st. There's nothing on the consent calendar, so we're down to the regular agenda items.
Great, thank you very much.
Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I do have one more announcement. Item C, 2 PDR 2010-002-A continued at 3325 Encinal is being continued. I will find out to when once we get to that item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome. We're going to start off with 2 PDR-2010-009-A 645 Pioneer Drive.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This first item before you, as noted, is located at 645 Pioneer Drive. It is located in the R3050 moderate density residential zone. The applicant is proposing a new 2,955 square foot two-story single-family house with an attached 427 square foot garage located on a vacant lot, which is 9,495 square feet. The lot is located at the northwest end of the 600 block of Pioneer Drive, abutting the 134 freeway. So as far as the sense of location, it is located west of Pacific Avenue, or the site is, and it is located up just abutting the 134 freeway. It's towards West Glendale, for reference. There are no multifamily design guidelines adopted by the city. However, the project, again, is located in an area which is zoned multifamily. However, this particular street block is comprised of several single-family, or primarily single-family homes, and a couple of, I want to say about two multifamily buildings that I noted when I was driving through the neighborhood. There is actually diagonally across the street from the site, there's a 3-story multifamily building, and on Chester Avenue, I believe it's the northeast corner, there's a 2-story multifamily building on that location. There's no prevailing architectural style in this area. However, we do see, or you can appreciate, a combination of craftsman and Spanish architecture within the vicinity. The building colors are generally earth tone or muted, and the roof designs vary in this area. As far as site planning is concerned, as I stated earlier, the site is currently vacant. It has a wedge shape. It's 9,495 square feet. Has a large frontage of approximately 260 feet along the southerly property line. The lot is relatively flat. All open space areas on the lot will be landscaped as shown on the landscape plan for the project. The house and garden, while providing a visual buffer to the freeway behind, provides a sense of openness in the landscape design as well as the site planning and architectural design. The front of the house, both the first and second floor, are set back according to the zoning requirements of 25 feet. As far as the parking, they are providing a two-car attached garage, which will be accessed from the larger portion along on the easterly side, which is the larger portion of that wedge. The proposed project is compatible with the neighborhood as it relates to mass and scale. They are within the height requirements. The zone actually allows a 3-story building to be proposed due to the width of that lot. They're allowed up to 3 stories, but in this case they're proposing a 2-story and under 26 feet, so they're well within the requirements for zoning. The project's massing is broken up by recessed building forms and geometric volumes, as you can appreciate in the drawings pinned behind you. Applying this technique helps accentuate the design and minimizes the boxy outline. And therefore, the sides of the building and some of the areas on the street front elevation is composed of staggered and setback building volumes and recesses on the ground floor and further recess on the second floor building planes. As far as building design and detailing, unlike the craftsman and Spanish-style homes in the area, the project is evocative of contemporary architecture. The house incorporates various thoughtful, creative treatments throughout, which are consistent with contemporary design. For example, we can appreciate this through the fenestration, combination of colors and materials, and that would include the wood siding and contrasting colors, which enhance the design. Overall, the architectural detailing can also be seen in treatment by the heightened parapet walls, the window locations and their proportions, and also the use of smooth steel trowel stucco finish. Lastly, the building forms and recesses are further emphasized through the use, again, of colors and combination of materials, including the plaster and the siding, and the color palette, which is further described in your staff report, so I won't go into that. I just wanted to note that the elevation drawings that are pinned on the board are slightly different compared to the ones that you received in your packet. Specifically, the color scheme depicts the material board more consistently, so that's different. And also the master bedroom roof was, the roof above the master bedroom was extended approximately 1 foot and 3 inches, I believe. And lastly, I believe that was it. Yeah. Oh, I remember now. There's a corner window, and let me point that out. That was incorporated. Just came to mind. It was this window right over here, whereas if you notice on your plan, it's just a blank wall in this area right over here, and now they added a corner window, which actually enhances that facade even more. Any questions regarding the plan so far? Okay. So, in conclusion, staff feels that although the contemporary style of the project may be unique as it relates to architectural color and layout compared to the surrounding buildings, the project's articulation forms and building planes and the overall mass and scale help it blend with the neighborhood context And for this reason, the reasons noted in your staff report, staff recommends that the board approve the proposal for those reasons noted in the report, as far as site planning, mass and scale, and the building design and detailing. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm
Questions for
available.
staff? No? Okay, Mr. Aliano. State your name and where you live.
Yes,
We can
hi.
find you.
Gio Aliano, 3408 Buena Vista Avenue, Glendale. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board, building officials, staff. And Ms. Toledo, thank you very much for a very thorough and comprehensive report. I feel like I don't really need to add anything. I would probably talk about the main points. I guess the main thing about this project is really, as it is in most projects, but in this one in particular, is this very unique site. As you can see from the drawings that you've gotten, it's a triangular site, and because of that, it generates some very interesting things. So that's one of the main reasons why I sort of took the project, and I've been excited ever since. At this point, maybe it's better that if you don't mind, if I can come up
Yes, please.
and maybe walk through. There's a pointy map over. I know where it's at. Talk about the site plan first, because I think I'll talk about that briefly, and then a little bit about the mapping and material, and then I can just answer some questions. As I mentioned, the site is triangular. It's a big lot, over 9,000 square feet. And technically on this side, we can build up to 3 stories. We could actually, it's a multifamily area, but we decided to do just a single-family house. Now, when you go through the code and you go through, again, the site analysis, you find out that because of the way the site is shaped and the setback requirements, the whole building, in addition to be triangular, goes to another level. And then you end up having average setback, which sets back the triangle even further, and creates these very interesting shapes that jogs on the, especially on the north side, which you see right here, actually on the plan. So that sort of opened up a whole new series of opportunities. And very early on in the design, mainly site plan stages, good afternoon, in the site planning stages, it was really important to kind of make a sort of decision in the direction. I mean, is this a site that really warrants a more traditional design, or does it warrant a more contemporary design? So we discussed it with the owner, and the conclusion was that because of all these things, because of the shape, and because of the setback, and because of what it was coming to be, I mean, this sort of extruded triangular box, we were trying to visualize how do you make something like that look traditional, or how do you put gable roofs in a staggered form. It just didn't make any sense. So it was very clear to us that the more contemporary, more modern approach was really appropriate here. And so we sort of sailed with that idea. Now, having said that, and having mentioned that it is actually a triangular volume that sort of gets extruded, and all these different staggering planes occur, that also happened in addition to satisfying the code. It was also convenient, and we kind of took advantage of that because we were very interested in being contextual. We didn't want to just plop a box and just meet the required setback. We wanted to see how we can use these things to be contextual, especially with the house next door, and also the people across the street, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But the main thing is, in this approach, especially here, is the house next door. How do you deal with that? And so when you look at the massing of the building, and here's basically, as you can figure out, is the front elevation. Here's the house next door, right there. Then you start studying it three-dimensionally, and we're basically here. And how do you really shape and carve this volume to sort of relate to the next door neighbor? And for that reason, for one thing, the massing is articulated in such a way where you have change of material and change of planes. Here you have change of material, change of plane here, and even more change of plane in the back. There's almost a 3-foot staggering setback with this wall, and you can see it right, this wall right here, which I think you can't really see it. Well, you can see it here. The house is right there. So that addresses that condition where the neighbors next door now can look at this building and now have this 20-plus feet high building. The fact that there's also an overhang here which actually has an opening, and the fact that we recessed this south plane even further back to create a balcony for the master bedroom also helps, because now this is 25 feet from the street property line, from the front property line. The building here is also 25 feet, but that's another 5 or 6 feet back. So when you're going out the door, you're not looking at a plane, you're sort of... And so that was very important, and we felt we addressed that fairly well. As you move along the south side of the building, right here, again, the idea of relating to the neighbors is expressed by change of material and creating a horizontal line here and there that relates to the one-story scale of the neighborhood. So, and it's also made dark for that purpose, so that it becomes obvious that that's the ground level and that is meant to relate to the other pieces that are at that same height. The upper story is a little bit lighter in color, and it sort of floats about the first floor. Another reason why the color is darker, so you get this impression that the second floor is an element that floats. As you move towards the west, now we're starting playing some very interesting games with the architectural expression, where from this plane, which is slightly recessed from that, you have another plane which is slightly moved in, another plane which is slightly moved in, again, creating recesses on the ground level for the same reason we did it on the east, to sort of create a sense of scale for the passersby and the people that live across the street, so that this will not be one vertical plane. Imagine all that being one material. It would be a bit too much. By doing all the staggering, this last room, which is the family room, that living room is in the middle, living room is in the middle, family room is at the end. The main thrust of the building is really in this direction because of the shape of the building, so everything sort of tends to kind of point and look in that direction, and so the architectural form takes that into account, and we take advantage of all these little things, where now this room, which is the living room, ends up having a plane that extends out, which becomes an outdoor space, which basically an outdoor room that's an extension of that space. And as you move up, you have a room above it that does the same thing, except that there you don't have a ground plane because you're going to fall, but you have a balcony that sort of looks out. And it becomes a main element that one sees as you turn the corner from Chester, and becomes sort of the element that kind of draws you in.
Time a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
The materials are very simple. We're using painted siding on the ground level, which is the brown. We're using plaster, smooth plaster, which is painted, so it will be a very consistent smooth finish with a consistent white color. It's called Eagle White. And then the windows are black frame. They're aluminum with clear glass. They're blacks because we want the windows to sort of read like the punch openings, and we want the windows to sort of, in a sense, disappear. So they really get to see all these little openings. And what else? And I mentioned the stucco, the plaster, the windows, the wood deck. Landscaping is responsive to the needs of today, which is drought-tolerant planting. There's some really wonderful trees that our landscape architect put in. These are London planes, which not only define the edge, but also create a really nice, wonderful outdoor space. Definition of we think that this project will be an addition, a pleasant addition to the area, because right now there's a freeway wall that you're looking at, and a
trash. Why don't you wait 1 second, maybe while he's up here, if there are questions for him? I have 2 questions, Mr. Aliano. One question. The transition between this plane and this plane, are you going to provide any break?
There would be a break. The idea is
How are you detailing?
Yeah, the idea is that whatever you see in brown
Yes.
is the siding. Does two things. It either peels, you're peeling away the plaster. Imagine this being all white. You're peeling off things, or you're staggering planes. So in this case here, we're actually peeling off all this white stuff that would have been there if this was a big mass of white stuff, right? So the concept of peeling and shifting planes, that's what. So to answer your question, there will be a change of plane. The plaster would actually overlap slightly.
Same structure, same stud wall.
Same stud, but we're going to overlap a little.
So this, okay.
And you will see that here as well and there. And it's actually easier for construction as opposed to doing a flush joint, which is very complex and difficult to do. You'd have to use some kind of a screed. Here we can actually probably overlap the material. That's the intention. We hope that we can do that.
My second question is, sorry guys, my second question is, I just want to know what
I'm sorry.
the thickness of your roof line. It's what 12?
Yeah,
What do you
10 to
have?
12 inches. Now that's a good question. I don't have a section, I actually done a section, but I don't have it here. The structure on the interior is actually much deeper.
Okay, good.
It's about, probably end up being about 4. The roof, maybe we can get away with 2 by 12s here because it's a very short span. But even here, we might be able to span it. So I would say maybe a 2 by 12.
The reason I like the design, because of the flat roof
Yeah.
and the span, I want to know, you don't have a section, that's why I
Right.
wanted to see how you're going to draw that section
Right.
with the slope and
Right.
to have that
Yeah.
12-inch. I think you're
Right.
assuming 12-inch.
12, but quite
On the
honestly...
inside is deeper.
Right. Quite honestly, what you will see behind the glass, and this is normally how this is achieved, you can bring the glass from floor to ceiling, so you get the impression that there's a plane of glass there. But a few inches back there, you might see a little drop, which we could use that as a pocket for perhaps the shades, you know. You're gonna have to
So
have some shades.
the member, you're saying it's going to be deeper.
Yeah, the structure is
So
not
you're
that.
going to shape it.
Right.
No, I know, but I
You
would...
might end up with a shape like maybe about 6 inches or so below that, maybe more,
Behind.
because remember that there's no parapets. These are basically curbs.
Yeah.
So you have a curb that comes down and then it slopes to a drain. So we're trying to maintain that as thin as possible. But your question is a good one because you cannot have this structure here will be independent. It will be probably added to the main structure. You know, because when you, in the section that I've done, basically you go up, you slope, and then you step, and then you go straight or horizontally across here. But when you look through the glass, you will probably see a surface of, you know, maybe a foot or so behind there, which there's really no other way to do the thin stuff.
No, I know.
unless-
I just want to see how you're going to do
But
it.
from far away, because of the reflectivity of the glass, I don't believe that will be that noticeable.
Okay. We have some other questions? Any questions? I just had one, the same issue. I mean, it looks spectacular, very happy with the design. But it's one of those things where you wonder how that perfect white goes from soffit to fascia to roof and how that actually 5 years from now looks. So I'm wondering, I mean, is that just a drip edge you're up there? Well, how are you thinking of that? You know, it looks so great, and then you have other ones where the wall turns in and
Right.
treating it all the same.
The idea is to make everything look like it's one material that can wrap.
Right, right.
It's sort of the Schindler concept of when you did a lot of these things where you never actually separated the material. It's always because it's sort of this plastic material that you shape. Now, for practical purposes, it might be wise to put a drip there, but I'm not quite sure whether it's going to be at the edge or whether it's going to be further back, because once you put a line there, you lose that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought about this quite a bit. It's really only about 10 inches plus of surface, and the only water that's going to collect and drip is that 10 inches. Is it worth? So that's something I have to discuss with the owner when they start building it. But right now, we're thinking we can probably pull it off without the drip. Another way to do a drip is to put a sharp edge right at the corner. That sort of drips down, and then it gets painted, and you won't see it. Just
But you
enough.
probably need a drip edge at the bottom also so you don't run back.
Yeah, that's what I meant, because
Yeah.
when water collects on the surface, it tends to run horizontal, then you get drops,
Yeah.
and then it will damage the pipe. Yeah.
But you may need a vent line there or something.
Yeah, the vent, I think I might put it in the back. The vent we need, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anybody else like to speak on this project? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and who would like to start? Alice, you came in late, you have to go first.
I have to go first?
Yeah.
That's just punishment.
Well, I can go first. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a big advocate of modern architecture. So, and
No comment.
I was very, very happy to see a a nice approach to a typical project that we always see a single-family house, and I think Mr. Arellano did an excellent job on this. I think the simplicity of the forms and the structure gives the effect that portrays what he's looking for, and I think he managed to achieve that. I like the colors. I think if it added more colors, I think it would have lost its simplicity. And overall, I'm when you see a serious architecture, when you see somebody that has put so much thought into it, my tendency is just to sit there and understand what they were thinking rather than sit there and redesign it for them. When we start looking at architecture and projects that are typically done, then we start getting a lot of opinions and a lot of different approaches to solve the same architecture that we've seen in the past. So I think in this case, I think it's such a unique proposal that if I sit there and give my opinion on how to address certain things, I think I would start disturbing the forms and the architecture that he tried to create.
Okay.
I think I want to leave it as is, and I want to hear what you guys are saying, what you guys thinking. And I'm glad that Jean-Pierre asked the questions, because those were some of the questions that I had. And there are many different approaches to the same problem, and I think that's one approach which I think is commendable. So I want to leave it the way it is. I don't have any additional comments.
Okay.
I think it's a very nice project.
Great.
In addition to Alan's, I'm a contemporary guy. Thank you. It's a beautiful design, beautiful presentation. I love the 3D modeling. It explains the project on all aspects. I don't have that much comment. I love the colors. I love the composition. You answered the two questions I had. The only thing I have is a recommendation is, you don't have to do it, window B and E on the front facade, maybe if you could lower it down to like maybe 24 inches above the finished floor, maybe we'll give it a little bit more presence. That's only a suggestion. Beside that, I mean, I have no problem. I love it. I wish we could see more of this type of designs in Glendale. That's about it.
Thank you.
My turn.
Go for it.
Should I say that I'm a modernist also? No, first of all, I'd like to commend your beautiful presentation. I think it's a beautiful building in a very tight site, and you've done a great job in resolving a number of issues in a very simple way. It looks simple, which is a great sign. One thought that I have, I'd like to share with you. I think for the most part you've done it very successfully, because if I was to describe this project, I would say that this project is about constructing a wall against the freeway to start with. Then you kind of find series of planes that are folded, and they create series of spaces, and then the windows become the negative space between those folded windows. One recommendation that I think, because of the beautiful garden space that you have provided in front, and I love the floating kind of plane that's lifted up from that garden, it just reminds you that there's a beautiful ground plane and the garden in front. I think starting from the wall of the freeway and the strength of that as a buffer, you can open up the other side more, and it will be to your, I think, to the users or owners' advantage to be able to appreciate that garden more. And I think one of the windows that I think maybe doesn't fall in that description of the negative space between the folded planes is this. I think is this one becomes more of a punch window, and then kind of with a cutout to accent it. But I think everything else is very consistently done and beautifully done. I think what I was talking about is that, for example, if you look at this corner, if this becomes all glass, for example, and then along with, so then that this corner window becomes a real negative space between those planes. So this plane becomes even more important because between what's going on here and the top, there's opportunity to really open up and enjoy that garden a lot more. And maybe the same thing can happen here. You can maybe let this be more of a cantilever by introducing more glass there to really connect those spaces to the garden. I think that's the advantage that you have started, and I think it's a very natural, good response to that site. So that would be my recommendation, that the composition of this and the dialect between what that is and what these planes are the resultant becomes the windows and the open spaces into the garden. So maybe you can consider that and see if there is other opportunities to introduce more windows. That's my recommendation. Other than that, I think a beautiful building.
I also want to say, job well done. Very nice. I've had a chance to do a triangle lot before, and they're always a great opportunity. I do have to say, though, that modernism is, well over 100 years old. So what we are talking about is an architectural style that we like. I'm also like traditional styles. I probably do more traditional than I do modern. So we welcome all styles as long as they are done well within themselves. And this one is done well within itself, its own style. I have no problems with it at all. I think it's very well done. I do like these comments. I think they would be helpful. I do think, as you look at it, there is something about the upper level. That's always great to have him here. I think there is a lightness that could happen on that left side that I think is an opportunity. I know it is a bedroom, and obviously there's issues with that. It may be that it may be another element or something there, because it does seem like that left side, because the openness on the right, and then you have it's so closed on the left side, which is where the view is. Again, I hate to comment on something that's very well done, but I think that would be a natural kind of reaction. So
Maybe now that they're talking, I could suggest that.
okay, I didn't mean to start anything.
I don't know. Maybe you could have that over here. I mean, you could make it like a strip of like 12-inch strip glass, and it might look like the roof is floating. I mean, you could play. I don't know. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, the way it is fine. But if you guys, I mean, I was thinking when you guys were commenting.
You have an opportunity there with that great garden.
I mean, you could have a strip of 12-inch glass, and then it looks like it's floating. That roof is floating.
And I would also tell you to go for a variance. It needs a front yard wall, and then you make it all private. So you should go ahead and do that. Yeah, I'll just say I'll take care of it. Anyway,
Done.
Is there a motion somewhere?
I'll make a motion to approve the project as it stands. And I just want to clarify one thing. I've gotten myself in trouble expressing my personal opinion and telling people that I like modern architecture, which I do, but I like, as Mr. Garrigo said, I like good architecture. It doesn't matter if it's modern or not traditional, but when it's modern and
You like
and
good
it's-
modern architecture.
I like good architecture and well done. So I want to
So noted.
myself off the hook if somebody's listening, and
Put that in the notes. Put that in
please.
the minutes for the
So, but I would like to make a motion to approve the project as it.
motion and second.
That was a quick second.
Yeah.
Would you like any of the thoughts in the record of decision or
Put
not?
them in there. I
My
think
comments.
he understands them. I think that were there any that were conditions?
Yeah, with the recommendations, I mean, with creating
Okay,
more
Ms.
openings.
Toledo will read them back.
One moment, please.
I don't know if they have to be listed.
I'm typing. Okay. Some of the comments that I had was to create more openness in order to enable create more view of the garden. And one comment that was made was to Board Member Belading to incorporate, for example, a 12-inch strip of glass on the southwest corner, on the front facade, on the second.
That's the same.
Right, and yours was
Asian.
actually also incorporating a larger window on that second story and on the first story.
Yeah.
To enhance the view of the garden. So either or is okay?
Yeah, I think.
Okay,
I
this
think
12-inch or enlarge the window in those areas.
Suggestion.
different ways of-
Right.
Suggestion.
They're consideration.
The comments are so theoretical, I don't think we can just specifically, I
No,
think
no,
it's
not
more
specific.
of accentuating certain volumes there and the
He heard
plans.
them,
I
and
think
I'm
that's
sure
what-
he
I mean, it's up to him. I mean,
Right,
it's not.
and they're going to be considerations, not
And then
conditions.
extending the windows on the first floor. They're all consideration. It's up to him.
The extension of the window on the first floor, are you referring to that same facade that we're
Yes.
discussing, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, right.
Maybe there was no consideration regarding the drip that was mentioned earlier, so I struck that out. Okay. And lastly, maybe it was me and I misunderstood, or maybe this goes back to the first comment. Board Member Zarifian, when you were mentioning consider starting from the freeway wall, open up the other side more to make more the garden space usable, was that something at the rear that you were referring to, or it goes back to the first?
No, it's just starting from
Just-
the idea. The only
Okay.
recommendation is to the opportunity of having more openness on the
For the
opposite
windows to
Same
further
area.
visible.
Same
Okay,
area.
then that was a motion with those considerations, or the one consideration rather, by Board Member Malikian, and the second was by Board Member Zarifian. Okay, this is roll call. Board Member Zarifian,
Yes.
Board Member Malikian,
Yes.
Board Member Baladian,
Yes.
and Chairperson Garagos.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We're going on to 2 PDR 2009-079-A, a continued project at 700 East Palmer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The project with the case number 2 PDR 2009-079, located at 700 East Palmer Street, is the construction of a two-story residential dwelling and two new two-car garages on an 8,280 square foot lot in R3050 zone. Currently, the subject site contains a one-story residence and a detached garage. The existing garage is proposed to be demolished, while the one-story residence will remain and has been incorporated into the proposal. The property is surrounded by multifamily residential buildings on three sides and by Palmer Park and single-family residences on the south side. The site is primarily flat, however, it slopes gently down towards the rear. The single-story front unit will remain in its current location, and one of the proposed garages will attach to the rear of this unit. The first and second floors of the new unit will be approximately 91 feet and 71 feet from the street. The footprint of the new unit is smaller than the previous submittal, mainly because of the elimination of previously proposed one-car garage and the LA County flood easement, which has limited the extent of construction. In the previous proposal, the easement was not identified. While the proposed project will take up a larger portion of the lot in relation to the existing site plan, it remains consistent with the neighboring properties, some of which contain multifamily, multi-story dwellings. The permitted lot coverage for the site is 50%. The proposed project will result in 34%. The required common open space is proposed at the rear of the site, where an existing 25-foot wide Los Angeles County flood easement has rendered this area unavailable for construction. A buffer is created between the proposed two-story house and the moderately sized, mostly one-story single-family property by this easement and Palmer Park. The proposed landscape plan incorporates mostly drought-tolerant plants and mulch as a means of providing permeable surfaces as well as the required landscaping. A row of trees are proposed on the southern property line, which provide shade to the common open space. The existing single-story house is 14 foot 9 inches, and the new two-story house will be 26 feet high. The R3050 zone allows for a floor area ratio of up to 0.65, while the proposed project has a floor area ratio of 0.45. On the first floor, the proposed unit steps along the line of the Los Angeles County flood easement. The nearest portion of the new second floor is located approximately 71 feet from the street above one of the new garages. The closest neighboring property is a two-story residential building on the west side of the project. On the east, the proposed dwelling unit is immediately adjacent to the rear yard of a single-family house. On the south side, Palmer Park and Los Angeles County flood easement provides a buffer between the subject site and the neighboring single-family properties. The new unit is L-shaped with a staggered edge at the rear. At the second floor, a balcony at the southwest corner assists in breaking the mass of the building into two forms. The main ridge of the new roof steps down to a secondary ridge. On all elevation, the building is broken up into smaller elements in relation to the previous submittal. As a result, the building mass appears reduced and design has more visual interest than previous design. The facade of the existing one-story unit will be renovated. The use of the stone, proposed shade of stucco, 2 shades of stucco, and the uniformity of the fascia are among the methods employed to allow integration of the existing and the proposed. Overall, the details and design of the project have created a building consistent in its entirety. The use of stone veneer, trellises, wood window surround, and 2 shades of stucco ties the units together. I have, for the benefit of the board, I have put the previous comment, even though this is technically a new project, with the applicant way of addressing them. I can go through them, or I'm not sure if you like.
You go step by step, or are we okay? No? What do you want? What do you think? You want to know how they were addressed? If you go quickly, we'll quickly through them. Yeah.
Number 1, it was strongly recommended for the applicant to provide an alternative site plan by breaking the building into 2 sections, rather than a single building, to allow centrally located common open space. The existing
Just stop you there. How are they supposed to do that if they can't go and encroach into the back of the...
That's the response.
Exactly, but at the time, it was not identified that there is an easement.
I see. Okay.
We didn't know that.
Okay. All right.
So that is why they couldn't.
I see.
Number 2, provide additional detail to the new building, and if any changes are proposed to the existing house, provide details and upgrade materials so that both buildings show a level of quality, craftsmanship, and materials. Rethink the proposed stone veneer to the existing house. All the materials and details are consistent throughout the project. The proposed stone veneer is limited to the chimney and front panel of the ground floor of the proposed unit and base of the existing unit. The existing front unit, the 2 new garages, and the 2-story unit appear as a well-integrated new residence by incorporating the same materials and details throughout. For example, components of the existing unit are used in the new unit and include painted fascia and proposed wood window surround. Number 3, the building at the rear and the front building should have a similar look. The project, which consists of the existing dwelling unit, proposed unit, and the two garages, appear consistent throughout and are tied together by using the same materials and details. These include trellises proposed to the existing and new portions of the residential dwelling, painted fascia, stone veneer, wood window surrounds to all window, and stucco color. This results in in integration of the existing and proposed portions of the building. Number 4, and the last one, provide landscape plan prepared by a landscape architect. A landscape plan is provided. Proposed landscape consists of shrubs, mulch, and ground cover. Trees are also proposed in the common open area adjacent to the southern property line. Staff recommend approval of the project with 3 conditions. Number 1, include a path from the front unit to the common open space on the east side of the project on the landscape plan. Number 2, where landscape is used, thank you. Where hardscape is used, provide permeable paving. The existing concrete driveway shall be replaced with paving stone or other permeable pavement. The last one, dark brown aluminum windows as proposed shall be used throughout the new dwelling unit. As an alternative, fiberglass window may be used.
Okay. Any questions for staff? You can go first this time. Oh, I'm sorry. What am I doing? Apologize. Arm? Excuse me. State your name and address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Aram Natsakanyan, 910 South Lennox in Burbank. I'm an applicant of this project. So this is the second time we are here. So Jolie, I think you explained very well. If you have any questions, answer it.
I have one question. Can you explain to me,
You can come up.
because I'm trying to figure out, I don't have a section through your building, because like this. So I'm trying to put everything together, looking at your plan, looking at your side elevation, and looking at this section. Where are these windows going in? 'Cause
Windows, they are going inside of the attic.
so you're putting
It's
a
just-
window in the attic space?
Yes.
To,
Actually, that one is only for look. If you see the existing is like this here, they are like changing them to have
Windows or
more
vent?
stylish.
no, they're windows.
This is the window now. This is now the window.
Okay, are you,
or a vent now? Is it a vent or a window?
We're gonna actually, I think to propose the vent, but
But you might need a vent there, that window.
Anyway, go on.
are you replacing the
doors.
doors?
Yes.
Okay, and then what is going on along here? You're showing landscaping here, and on your landscape plan, you're like the entire thing is paving. So what is that?
Actually, this is the picture we take. This one is existing landscaping here, so that
Okay.
one gonna gone, and it's gonna be like paving.
Okay,
Everything
so you're
be
gonna
paving. All this
what
gonna
are we
be paved.
proposing along the property line?
Property line paving.
No, I understand, but about the property line, are you putting a fence or?
I think there is a fence now.
Okay, and then
Yeah, there is a fence now.
and then where would the trash and other elements? of
Trash
this-
is here.
So these guys are gonna have to come all the way to the
Yes,
back and put the
yes,
trash?
they are
in
gonna
there?
use actually the common open space also. That the thing is for this LA the county easement, we don't have more opportunity to put here anything, any building. That's why whatever is not that much important, we are just pushing in the back.
So,
So using this at the space as it possible. Because almost like 25% of the lot, so we cannot do anything on that.
so what does this represent? Are they gonna walk
This
over
one
the
is like
grass?
a
or-
walkway, yeah. But
We can put here the stepstones or something like that, and just work on it to the common open space.
There is a landscape plan at the top.
There's nothing shown in the landscape plan. Nothing
It's
shown.
it's blank.
It's blank, so.
Actually, isn't that where? Sorry, from.
Yeah,
Isn't that
where-
where we're recommending the path to go from the front unit to access the
back.
back common area?
By the stepstones on this area, actually, I do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the path is supposed to be.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? No questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ut Baum? Did I say that right? Ute? Ute Baum. State your name and address, please.
Ute Baum, 1208 Cottage Grove, Glendale, California. Good afternoon, Chairman and board members. Hi. I'm a neighbor, and I came to the initial presentation, which was almost 2 years ago, at which time the board sent the entire design back for redesign with these comments as Jaleh has read. And as has been said, the devil is in the details. And although this project is somewhat of an improvement over what was there before, what was presented before, there are quite a few issues that I would like to address and would like you to consider in this case today. I understand that the LA County Flood Control does put a constraint on where the building can be, but I still see it as one big monolith with no break in, well, the garages are the two smaller segments, with the second floor in the back looking down on the neighbor's backyard, essentially. I think it is an improvement over the previous one, but that is not to say that it's a good design. Also, in what Jaleh was reading, one of the comments was to show a level of quality, craftsmanship, and materials, and to rethink the use of the stone veneer. I briefly talked to the architect about the stone veneer before the meeting, and I believe I was hoping that there wouldn't be anything shiny or glitzy on this front. Oh yeah, he was looking for that, and it looks sort of almost like a sandstone or fieldstone stack. If it's well, I don't need to address that anymore because it isn't shiny like I would object to as being too overbearing. The existing building, the front house, has been entirely remodeled, and as an alternative to the stone, which sort of goes away now, is I would maybe just paint it a different stucco color or a different texture of stucco. The small front window that is there now is sort of a semi-round affair, and I have a feeling that it was a vent at one time. And to replace that with a rectangular window under the gables, under each gable, as a way of creating a similar look, I think is ill-conceived and really is no improvement. I don't know what to do about the window situation except make the front one another vent. Then item number 4 of the recommendations was to provide a landscape plan prepared by a landscape architect. And in the code, the zoning code, I have tried to get the answer from staff in the last few days, but nobody could give me a correct answer as to who is to provide or design a landscape for the project. I think the landscape as it is presented now is very inadequate. They may have considered drought tolerant, but those drought tolerant plants look like they have been dropped from a helicopter onto the site. without any design. The proposed box trees in the common area in the back are supposed to provide shade, yet, however, the park, it's actually a community garden that it backs
wrap up.
onto.
You could wrap up.
Right. Has some large sycamores there, and I would love to see some trees in the front garden as well, and not just along the wall in the back. Then I just want to quote the zoning code, which regulations for multifamily zone, which is section 303120. Paragraph A5A states that prior to the issuance, all landscape plans shall be prepared and wet stamped by an individual who is licensed in the state of California to prepare such plans. And I think if some of these issues were considered, it might be a positive addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Okay. Pierre gets
My
to start.
turn.
Pierre gets to start this
Does
time.
Before you close, does he want to...
Oh, would you like any rebuttal to that? Any rebuttal comments? Okay.
Well, definitely it's a big improvement from the previous proposal, but I still think there are some issues that needs to be addressed as far as the exterior elevations. I don't think so. It's the best solution for the north elevation. I have a problem with the plane. The two windows. I don't know if that's the best solution because they should be louvers probably rather than windows, in my opinion, because you don't need for the ventilation, for the attic ventilation. And then one of the walls, which is intermediately, it's in my opinion, I think it's too high, it's too blank. It's your north elevation. It's facing the street. I think it has to be more inviting or more architecturally designed. You have the two closets facing that wall. I don't think is properly. You need to revisit that area. And then the balcony, if it's, I don't know if it's designed to use it or it's a decorative balcony. I'm not sure. It looks on the plan, it's a pretty tiny balcony. I don't know if you could call it balcony or it's just a decorative because there's no way I could fit in. I'm not that big of a guy, but it's too narrow. I don't know if it's usable balcony. I don't know. I have no idea. There's no dimensions, but I could tell from the drawings that it's not usable. Also on the south elevation, the windows, I also have a comment regarding the windows. The windows, it seems that on the south elevation, if you take a line, it's not lined up. You have the balcony window and then they don't line up in the drawings. I don't know if that's a mistake or I don't know what's going on. And then on the first floor, same thing. Somehow the windows overall are, the windows needs to be worked out. I don't think so. It's properly designed. Color-wise, I don't have any problems. Roof, landscaping, maybe, I don't know what's the condition on the neighbor's side, that paving maybe you need to talk to your landscape architect to come up with a better landscape design, maybe along the property line. That's about it. I don't know. I forgot something. Alan, go.
Okay.
The problem I have is that when I look at the building, it's hard for me to figure it out in terms of, like, when I look at the building to know how the color, what the intention of the two colors are, or what is the intention of the brick other than accenting the chimney and that portion of the wall, which I think the brick probably perspective to start to tell a story about this very long building with two pieces in front and the back, and then is it about breaking the mass down, or is it about establishing a base? Those kind of issues that I was hoping to hear, for me to be able to understand that what was the direction that you were taking in terms of making the building be more friendly to the neighborhood and how it relates to the neighborhood and so on. So I think as an example, I'll show you the I think this front porch seems like it was there and it's kind of remained there, but now there are too many gables, and you can tell that this part is doing its own thing, and then the rest of it kind of just happens to be back there, and there's no kind of
Marriage.
yeah, there's no, you can't find the reason to that. What are the pieces trying to do, and how do they come together? I think, for example, if this front porch became part of this trellis structure, it will help the composition of a simple gable with the trellis structure in front, and then so that you won't have so many repetitions of the same thing. And also, I think in scale of things, this starts to look so small that it kind of disengages itself from everything else. Just as one example. But I think if you think about the color idea and the material idea and how the trellises sort of occur where they occur, I think they have to tell a story that is absent. That's I can't find that, so it goes back to what Mr. Boladian was talking about from a compositional perspective. The windows, kind of, there are different types of windows, but they don't become substantial enough. Any of them don't become substantial enough to signify this to be a house rather than an apartment building. There are just a lot of small windows, and you wonder if there's a hierarchy of saying that one is a living space, one is a bedroom. It's just a number of windows. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of pieces put together, but they don't come together to represent that this is a house. I think the same idea goes for landscaping. The landscaping needs to substantially have intentions. Right now, it's the driveway side is very dry, and it's just a big driveway, and you need to kind of represent something on the east side of the property, and I can't tell that much from the landscaping plan, but from the three-dimensional drawing, there's much to see also. So, but at any rate, I think somehow it needs to be pushed to the next level and look at the windows, opportunities to make things more, have more character and bring more character to the house. From a color perspective, from massing perspective, from what repetitions make solid rhythms that help breaking down the mass. That's my perspective on it. I can't be very specific about what you need to do exactly, but I think you need to find a way of bringing all of this together that the purposes are very simply understood. Then, if it's a long house, what do you need to do? Do you need to make it more horizontal or vertical? Or where do you make it vertical? Where do you make it horizontal? That all, at the end, should become a very simple idea, which I think is absent from the design. at least how I can.
Well, I've been trying to think how to help the applicant figure out what we see as a problem and how to solve it for him or give him the right direction. I think my first comment would be is that we have that special book that we've been collecting projects, and this is not a unique proposal to a similar type of edition. So we've seen many of them, and we've pretty much hands down approved a lot of the projects. And I think this is a simple enough addition that, and you're so confined with a lot of the restrictions that you have on the site, the rear, the side, the entry, driveway, and so forth, that you're pretty much set with where this thing needs to sit in. And I think everything falls on your shoulder of creating the simple architecture with fine-tuned detailing that can sell us the project. And I think it can be done. It's not an impossible thing. Certain things on the site plan, like I mentioned, creating a large driveway, I think it needs to soften up on the east property line. I think that would definitely help. Whenever you propose a common area away from the actual unit that is going to use that, you always create that issue that I've had for past 8 years that I've been sitting here, and I've always tried to solve that, but I've never found the right solution, because what you end up doing is you create this common area that is predominantly will be used by the closest unit that is closer to that space. And if it's truly gets used the way it's supposed, the intent is, then the rear unit is going to hate life, because there's going to have people back there, parties, whatever the case may be, and it's going to happen under their living room. So that always becomes an issue. How do you solve that? Do you create a landscape buffer? Do you eliminate some of the windows? Do you reduce the size of the windows? Do you raise the windows up higher so that you don't have the sound and the privacy? So that's one issue. The other issue is, I think, some of the placement of these windows that you've chosen, and particularly the question that I asked, those stack the double windows that you have and the face providing light into the attic. I think that was a unconscious or decision that you were trying to make to soften up this large facade that you've created by placing certain program that you had to put in. And I think there's other solutions to that, other than placing windows that it's repetitive from front to back. I think there are ways to maybe introduce siding, create the upper portion of this section of the roof, the gable part of the roof, provide siding there. Maybe introduce some windows that are actually usable windows, rather than placing the closet, rather than facing the street, face it to the other side where people are going to be looking over to the apartments, and that window could be used facing the street itself, or vice versa. So there's a level of I guess the detailing or understanding the program is there. So there's not much we can do with the program. There's the placement of the spaces inside. It is what it is. So now we just have to deal with how you approach this. So I think the architecture is simple enough. I think it's just the placement of some of the windows, adding some appropriate detailing, and I think it would fall into place. And I think Mr. Zarifian had a good point, because what you ended up doing is you created the mini, the little larger, the medium, and the large hats that you've created. You started stepping back this the system, you may not be able to see that in actuality because we're looking at your elevation. So it may be that the presentation that you have, that you're trying to sell us what you're proposing, maybe at some point, you don't have to really, I would argue with all due respect with staff that, if a specific rendering or a section or something that it's needed and it's not really required, but you need to put it in, I would put it in, and to sell us the idea, the concept that you're proposing. In addition to what the minimum requirements are. So I think the rendering is there, but I think creating those volumes is really important to be able to be the window placements, how they're aligned, where they are, the type of windows, the material that you're using, how it's kind of wrapping around, because it's such a minimal amount of details that you're proposing. And unfortunately, the building is right next to an apartment, so you have this giant structure right next to yours, so how do you address that? So that's what I have to say, and there's nothing specific, but it's just a lot of general comments, so...
Okay, thank you very much. I also had a question about the windows or vents. I think it would make more sense if they were vents. Was also wondering what you guys thought about the trellises. There's a trellis in front. Sort of looks like it's not really supported, so would it need brackets or other columns? We could just make a decision on that. The window surrounds, if that was, if we were okay with that it was wood, what kind of material it would be. And I do agree with the driveway that the east side should have landscaping on it. It looks like on their diagram they have additional space that they could add landscaping on the side. In terms of the massing, one of the things that they're doing is they're doing a larger floor-to-floor and ceiling height than would be normal. So one thing we might want to get a handle on is if we wanted them to bring down those plate heights. They're proposing either 10 and 8 or 9 to 9, depending on which drawing you're looking at. So there's an additional 2 feet of height in there that the back unit could go down if that would help some of the issues that you guys might have or we would have. Then also, since it was trying to lean towards something traditional, would we just work in a contrasting material in the gables as a means of kind of minimizing the height, if that would be helpful or not? And then on the windows, I completely agree. I think they're too similar, and there's not a hierarchy to it. So I think if we gave direction on that,
Windows?
yeah, I think if we gave them direction on, your point was exactly how do we give them information to move it forward? And I think if we gave them some direction on the windows, if we gave some direction on materials, on the materials, and then on the height, if we wanted them to lower the plate heights, and some of those landscape issues. I still think that, I remember the project, and it's unfortunate about the easement, because I was hoping that it was going to be 2 buildings to ease that situation. So it's kind of unfortunate for that situation. But you still could do some of that second floor over that front garage. That's a new garage, so you could put even more over that, which you'd be stacking material on top of each other, which might minimize the need for putting so much at the back. And you could almost generate, sort of an answer to yours would be, if they put some of that up on the second floor, so that you could bring some of that back around, you almost could give that eastern part of the common area to one unit, and then maybe the other corner or something to the other unit, maybe. But I think there's an opportunity. You wouldn't have to put so much on the second floor in the area there is so much mass. So ultimately, somebody has to make a motion. So I don't know how you guys want to
make
move
one
forward.
more comment.
Yes, please.
Another thing I would suggest that I think you have a window design issue. I think this project is going to make, I think it's the windows. What I recommend is maybe check out some Craftsman homes, some Frank Lloyd Wright homes, corner windows. I don't know. It's you need to do some research, window research, how it's dealt with elevations like this. I think that will help you to come up with the better elevations, and it will resolve. I think the issues is your windows design.
I think maybe one way would be to think about first starting with the entries to the two houses to make them very significant. I think the front one having the porch is something that's there. It's kind of it could be a nice entry if that was just a single house in front, but how would you make the other entry, the two entries, be very strong and easy to find and as a starting point? I would say the entries are the most important. Then let's think about the living spaces as something that have larger windows. So all of a sudden you create this hierarchy of the living spaces having bigger windows, and then the private spaces start to, the bedrooms start to have this third type of windows. So somehow you create a language of using windows that start to kind of give some order to the building.
Also, I mean, I think that trellis he has on the first floor, it doesn't do anything. It's too low. I don't think so it's achieving. What you need to do, like another example is the balcony you have there. When you're designing, put the function, you need to utilize it. Don't just put it there because you feel like you're going to put the balcony. I mean, have a reason, like the previous designs, like make sense of what you're proposing. If it's a balcony, make it into a balcony. Don't just put it a fake balcony. I think it will make a difference. And then by doing that, you start doing articulation, wall articulation. I think you could come up with a very good solution design. Spend some time, play with it, make a little model, research some books, and start playing. Propose a real balcony. If you're not going to put a real balcony there, don't propose it. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You need to enjoy that space. Nobody going to use it.
There's a porch you're making. It could be an entrance for that back house, and it could have columns on it. It could be the size of the porch that's below, that you have below, and then it gets larger accordingly.
You see, if you play with the planes, and then you will give you a reason to put the trellis. That's it.
Okay. How do you guys want to proceed?
What is this? Is second?
This is.
It's
a new project.
New?
It's technically a new project, yes.
Oh, because of the previous proposal.
So it could go back once
Yes.
more.
Okay.
Okay. What is the
Motion
choice?
for return.
I have a motion for room for redesign.
Redesign.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second.
Okay. Would you like me to go over some of the comments or the roll
Yes.
call? The windows under the gable roof needs to be louvered. The balcony is too narrow to be functional. The windows need to be the window replacement need to be reconsidered throughout the buildings. Throughout the building, too many windows without being consistent and alignment.
See a hierarchy of windows that relating to their uses.
Okay. Landscape need to be reconsidered. The front porch and too many gables are proposed and do not appear to integrate well together. Landscaping again needs to be incorporated on the east portion of the site, to soften up the hardscape driveway. Okay. A landscape buffer or less windows on the south elevation needs to be provided for to create some level of privacy for the new unit. Provide a rhythm in terms of mass and scale and landscaping. Create simple architecture with simple details. Introduce some siding under the gable roof. The trellis on the front appear not to be supported. Provide bracket or other means of support. Consider bringing down the plate height of the new unit. Propose contrasting color for gables. Bring the second floor forward over the garages. Again, there is some more comments on the windows, and consider Craftsman and Frank Lloyd Wright way of incorporating windows and design of it. Emphasize the entrance to the units.
Do you want to make the idea about bringing down the plate heights, do you think that's important as a massing to do that or not?
Yeah, I think the
Is it
back
important or
of
not?
the building has gained a lot of height. I know if the...
What is it?
I think the
fourth
plate
wall?
will help.
What is it?
No, they're doing a 10-foot plate and an 8-foot plate. There's 2
I would
feet. There's 2
reduce
feet
it.
in there.
It's too high.
There's
I
2
would-
feet in there that could be moved if you want it. If you guys.
It's not just, there's the large attic and maybe even the pitch of the roof.
You want that as a condition? How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to start lowering the height and then lowering the roof pitch and then reducing the attic and
I don't know about the pitch. I was just wondering if the plates were I just had that issue. I don't know if you felt it was important or not to lower it.
I think by reducing it, it's going to make a better composition.
I mean, it appears too
Right
high.
now,
it
it
seems like
looks
it's a
like-
lot of scale.
For
you
this
know what?
house, it's probably...
But I don't know
too
if
high
we
of a
have the
plate,
right to do.
But my question is, the plate height for the garage, you mean, or the new addition, right?
They have 10 foot on the first floor.
See,
and
the
8 foot on
My
problem-
question is, so if this is 10 feet, right? So that means what they're showing on this elevation, that's what I don't understand. How is this possible? The ground floor is 10 feet, right? That means the existing house has a 10-foot, is that how it is? Can you need to speak on the mic?
Actually, the bulk of the property is going down, and that's the reason that actually the double plate of the front house and the proposed unit, they are almost the same height, but the floor of the
So this-
back unit is down.
This is almost,
It has a break there, right?
You actually have a step in the first floors?
It's sloping
the
down.
First floor is lower on the
First
back
floor
unit?
is lower in the back unit.
do you have a survey?
Yes, I think we have, yeah.
Do we have a survey?
I don't think we have it. No,
Before I
we don't.
agree on the motion to lower it, I just need to know why is
I
the,
thought...
because when you look at this, see this line and that line is almost the same.
Yeah.
In the existing, I would, I mean, I would be-
it is going down. He's drawn it.
Yeah,
It is
our
going down, but
understanding,
it's drawn the same, then this needs to be
Right.
2 foot lower,
Yeah, you should be lower.
right?
You're right. No, he's
So
right.
the head height, so that means,
Might be doing a higher door in back.
so the top of windows are a 10.
He's doing an 8-foot header in
Eight.
back on a 10-foot plate.
You know what it is,
But
Alan?
it's 9'4". You're putting a 9-foot header.
An 8-foot header, not an 8-foot.
Alan, the front entrance door is drawn wrong, maybe.
Header height, not plate height. Header height.
Header height.
Window height. For the,
Yeah.
Maybe the front entrance door is drawn wrong.
so I think what I hear Board Member Malekian saying is that if it were drawn correctly, it would appear lower from the street, particularly in relation to the existing house.
Actually, you know what happened?
Because the ground plane is lower. Our understanding is that it is lower.
You see, it looks like lower. This should have drawn lower. The door seems like at the same level at the front.
That's,
You see, this is the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
You see?
Right.
so it is actually, let's agree that the site goes lower.
So what we'll do is we'll ask for an elevation, a separate elevation section in front of where the new unit is, so that that elevation is clear and we understand what's going on, and right, rather than putting them together in one elevation.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand. So the property is 2 foot lower.
Yeah.
The front is 2 foot higher.
Not drawn.
But then,
No,
Please,
it's-
come on.
no, I understand. Yeah,
This is
come on,
much
come
lower.
on back. So,
this
but then
This is drawn
all
out.
your window head heights and door head heights are set
no.
at
not
You see?
almost 8 foot.
Are you doing 8-foot doors in back?
Yes, 8 foot.
There's 6, 8 in
Yeah,
the
see?
and they're
Yeah, but the door,
That's the
but the door should be here.
8 foot
But it's
door.
not drawn that way. That's what I'm trying to
It's
say.
the taller
not
door.
drawn that way. The windows
that
are
tall.
at the bottom of the
10-foot high door.
floor joist.
Yeah.
This should be.
See, the front one is 6 foot, 8
9
foot, 2
door.
foot higher. The back one is an 8
Much
foot.
smaller.
How tall is your door?
So the heights are
8
the
foot.
same.
8-foot door?
Here, this is,
Over here.
this is 8 foot door.
Look at that.
Over here?
That elevation is wrong, right? Yes,
You
that
see
one is,
this?
Yeah.
And this.
No, this is not the floor level.
No, the lower, the back
Floor
one
level is here.
lower with an 8-foot door.
Alan,
Front one's a 6,
look
8
at
foot
this.
higher.
This line here comes across, and it's lower than that, right? And then here, that's the same line, right? That's this.
Okay.
If you come across, it falls under this. So this door is a very tall door,
8 foot.
basically. 8
Eight
foot
The bottom of
door.
the door is 2 feet lower.
This is an 8-foot door. This is like a 6-8 door.
Yeah, 6 feet 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means their
Yeah,
headers are about
that's
the
the
same.
difference. Actually,
The headers are about the same.
this level with this level,
Yeah.
so you can see the floor is over here down than the first unit. So if we keep over here the same height wherever it is, we are going to be able to have almost the same level of the windows in the first unit and in the second.
I think the perspective is more accurate or more realistic than the elevation.
No, Alan, this is actually not the floor level.
Okay,
Floor
no, I
level is
understand.
here.
I understand.
This is
It's
just
the
a trim
8
on the
foot,
top of the
right.
windows.
I understand on that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue on with,
Okay,
what
so
are we
now
gonna do?
going back to your question, should we lower 2 feet?
It seems like there's a big break anyway.
I don't know if it's really going to help.
No,
That's the
I
question.
thought for a
That's
minute
the
you were
question.
referring to the 10 feet at the second floor. so
No,
I
no,
thought
it's 10 foot at the
at the
lower
ground floor
level.
because the
My
side
point
door-
was, there's an extra 2 feet in the back building that we could lower it if you thought it was necessary. If you
No,
don't, then
I
we
don't
lower
think.
it.
No, I don't think it's.
I,
gonna be
I don't
big.
think it's...
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Okay.
What are the conditions that we want to put on that other than our recommendations, our considerations?
I would suggest a preamble to all the conditions that Ms. Giazand mentioned. That would go something like this. Overall, the project is a simple design. The fenestration, entries, and details need to be revised and refined to improve the overall design. Elements of design should have function and significance. So that seems to broadly reflect what we're hearing, and I think all of the specificity that you've provided will also help the designer in moving the project forward. There was one piece that you had asked for in the previous application that I'm not sure was fulfilled in this one, and that is requiring a landscape design by a landscape architect. So if you'd like for us to include that as a condition, we will.
We have to.
Yeah.
Well, as one of the speakers mentioned, the code actually does not require a landscape architect. It requires a professional, so an architect or a designer who is equipped to do landscape designs.
How would we know the person who prepared this license?
Well, we do require that stamp. So we'll. Right. So a licensed professional. So we'll make sure that if it's the board's condition, that a licensed landscape architect provide the drawings the next time.
I don't think it's
Is that the wish of the board or not?
I think it's the board. I think it's the code, is it?
Well, the code doesn't require a licensed landscape
No,
architect.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, but someone licensed need to.
That's right. According to the code, yes,
Okay.
that's right.
And leave it with that? Okay. Does that work for a motion? Who made the motion?
Okay, the motion to return for redesign was by Mr. Boladi and seconded by Mr. Zarifian. This is a roll call. Mr. Malikian,
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian,
Yes.
Mr. Boladian,
Yes.
Mr. Gregus.
Yes.
Motion passes by 4-0. Thank you.
Okay, item C has been continued. Do we have a date certain?
Actually, we do not have. It will be continued. Calendar will notice.
We renoticed. Okay.
Just like any other project.
Okay, we move on to item D, which is 2 PDR 2009-037-B, 2030 Chilton Drive.
Where are we going with this? Just gonna go through. What the hell is this?
Yeah, I know.
Chairman of the board, I'm just putting up a couple of exhibits since this is at the back. And I'll refer to these as we go through on our staff report, which hopefully everybody's got. Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, our next case is over here on the left side of the panel, and we have the project on Chilton Drive, 2030 Chilton Drive. Is a return for redesign, so this is the second time the board has seen it. It was first reviewed in December 10th of 2009. The three of the board members, I believe, two of the board members were here at the time when they reviewed it, and two were not. The project that the applicant's proposing, and let's back up real quick. These are the older plans right here. So what I've tried to do is place side by side the elevations and straight down the line. So these are the older plans of which I could not find a nice, neat little card. So I put it over there, and this is the newer plans over here. And all the way down. So these perspective, this perspective, this is how this works here. We have some photographs. That goes out so you all can review those. And we also have an overhead view. You can look to see a relationship of the project site here with its two neighbors. This is an elevation down between two properties where it'll be most impacted right through that property line there. This project is located in the far northwestern part of Glendale, in an R1 zone. It includes a 93 square foot addition to the first floor, which is a kitchen area, and a new 555 square foot addition for a second floor. The total house size will be 2181, just under 2,200 square feet when it's completed. Has a two-car garage at the rear, detached. There are no chains there. The project is located in what they call the El Miradero area of town, which is a district with period homes and Spanish colonial revival homes. And this neighborhood has a lot of that types of styles. A lot of the Tudor homes, you'll see several of those as you look through the elevations. There's also, as a matter of fact, why don't we just pull this one out here too? This kind of gives some panoramic views, if you can look at. And give you kind of an idea, an overview there too. The subject property is pretty much right in the middle here. Right, T0. Oh, here it is. I highlighted it. Kind of hidden, you can't really see it, and that's one of the issues we'll go through real quick and discuss with you. When we look at the three categories that planning tends to look at, which is your site planning, your mass and scale, and your building design and detailing, overall, planning felt that the revised project, the applicant did a better job of addressing the board conditions that are listed in the staff report, and which I think what I'll do is kind of jump ahead and go straight into those conditions and go through it, because as I discuss those, I'll pretty much be addressing each of those three categories and give you an overview. Then I can back up and answer some questions if you have any questions. Look at this. So we felt that overall the project did a pretty good job in meeting the board issues. And so if we go to the applicant's, go to the different conditions, and we look at the first condition, which is articulate the east and south sides of the house to break the long roof forms and wall forms. Initially, this is what the board was looking at right here. There's a concern with this area here, sort of a disconnect, but this was a staff's recommendation at the time, and the applicant faithfully followed it, but the board did not care for it. And so in return, the applicant then tried to unify this and tried to complement in terms of the way the gables, the way the eaves work with the existing house. And the existing house, you can see, is right down here. This shows all your existing house plans. So you can see how he's tried to complement, and that's one of the issues that the board had wanted them to do. Now, one of the things that the staff, and you can see it in those photographs, raised was, we have this large wall form here, which you can see down through here, but there's very limited visibility, certainly from the street. In fact, when you look at it from the street, there's this view, because it slopes down, the street comes up like this, you only have a small view of the top of the house from the street. So it's not that large view from the street, and it's pretty much hidden from the street as far as the landscaping goes.
Just while you're there, let me interrupt. You're showing he was showing a fascia on that side.
Right here?
Those two planes are the same, though.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
That was just two planes. It was more meant as an effect to kind of break up that mass through there.
But that's the old design.
That is correct, sir. This is the old one. This is the new one. The second condition is design the proposed roof form to be more uniform with the existing roof form. So I've kind of gone into that, where they work to try to get the pitches and the roof forms to be modified to be more uniform, and to try to emulate more the original Tudor look. Because as the board members that were here before, one of the issues was sometime in the year 2000 or shortly before, the project kind of morphed into kind of an eclectic kind of look, and so the board members asked, can you kind of bring it back to something closer to it, and so we felt that he is meeting that intent. We said that the easterly, for instance, the easterly roof form right here, it was it's just kind of, it was just different, and they tried to connect it, unify it, try to complement what was out there. The same thing over here on the west side as well. There was a large angled trellis element in the back. Board members asked him to remove that in condition number 3, which he did. On the front of the house, this was kind of one of the little add-ons that wasn't quite accurate, and so this little hat element was added on without permit, and so and it just kind of stopped. So when you looked at it from the side, though this doesn't really show it, it sort of came and stopped like this, and now it comes and continues back into the existing roof line over here, and the applicant has done that. Some of the smaller details, we asked him to continue some of these little vents, diamond vents around, which he has done. They weren't all there. And some of the, like for instance, you can see on the back they had these elements here, but so they're bringing that around. Then we asked him if he could simplify and unify some of the other designs. On the front windows, for instance, if you looked at the front windows in the photographs, these tended to be these big foam mold trims. The columns were not consistent with the Tudor design. So he's brought those back to where they are more consistent with that type of a design. And the light fixtures and railings, the applicant is requesting to maintain the ones that are out there. You can see in the photographs they pretty much show up. But they tend to be kind of subtle and not really that visible, and staff didn't have a problem with them. There's a couple of code issues that the applicant is aware of, and they're planning on removing them. There's a landscape arbor here in the driveway. Unfortunately, you can't have it. It's very nice looking, but it doesn't meet zoning code. And there's a patio area by the pool attached to the garage, which is another code issue. So the applicant's going to remove that as well. I would like to say, kind of as I wrap up, I made an error in when I wrote something. There's a discrepancy. The planning staff is recommending approval with conditions as listed, but at the very end, I had written return for redesign. So I have on the front end, approve with conditions, on the back end, it says return for redesign. We wanted it to be approved with conditions, and just wanted to make that clear to you. And that pretty much concludes it. I can go back through and go through as much as you want. The staff report was pretty clear. And
Questions for staff?
How do you guys feel, the staff feel about the west elevation?
well, the west elevation, actually, we didn't have a problem with that. It's recessed in. So the west elevation, they're calling this the east. I actually think that's the west elevation right there. This is the east elevation.
Well, the east elevation. How do you guys?
This one here,
Yeah.
or this one here?
The bottom.
Okay. Well,
No articulation, nothing.
no, I know it was a concern, but I think one of the issues that we thought about was the visibility of it. It's really not visible, and so the applicant has made his arguments, and we're going to go with the arguments on it. If you will note, I placed in there his arguments that he submitted to you about trying to maintain the existing wall forms, that not breaking them and things of that nature. That's his argument. So,
And nothing about the large bedroom window, balcony, the door.
well, fair enough. That's a fair question too. When you look at this balcony, looking over or this opening here, he has an inside balcony rail. This would be the exterior here, and he shows like a little interior balcony rail. That's a section view that he showed there. We felt that this view is pretty much limited, and you can see in the overhead, limited just straight out the back here. I'm sure you can see over here, but it's not the same as having the very large window here. And they only have, they're introducing only one small 1x3 window over on that side of the house. So the rest of these are pretty much all on the same ground floor.
Well, on that site plan, is the whole bedroom past then the existing house on the upper side?
Yeah, that looks like for both the existing and proposed. So the first floor bedroom is already like this right here.
But the second floor addition is out.
That's correct. The second floor addition goes directly above it. He's trying to use the same frame structure is what he's trying to do.
One question I have is, this area is a flat roof?
You beat me to it.
Yeah, that little part there, yes, that is correct. He had, what he had is he is extending and making flat. It was going to be like a little trellis element here, which was tied in with this angled trellis element right here.
Yeah.
And so he's just making it into a flat.
Yes, I have a question. What's the maximum height allowed in this?
28 feet, sir. For a single-family R1 zone with the 3 and 12 feet roof that it just has.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you.
Pete? No, I have to go last.
Alan.
I can.
You
No,
okay,
it's-
sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think actually the new design has made a lot of improvement.
Has he?
Oh, yeah.
He's still present.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
what
you
did I
have
say?
to
I'm
present.
terrible. I'm off. This I'm learning. But,
Okay, so you might.
not too well. Not too well. Name and address.
It's okay.
Rhonda Sarkisian, practicing architect in Glendale, 520 East Glen Oaks Boulevard. Where's the new model? And the side piece?
Model is safely tucked back at my desk. If the board would just hold on a second, I'll go back there and get it.
I would like to have that.
Yes, sir.
Because we've looked at it.
Sure.
This is a very, very modest project, and it's been a challenge because I inherited a number of problems in a project that I had nothing to do with it. But nonetheless, we've tried to follow from the four recommendations and 4 considerations. I think we've covered every one of them, and we have looked at every one of them. The problem with the issue that Mr. Baladian really proposed, I have such a small footprint. I wasn't able to move it because I have essentially a 12-foot element, which is that vertical little element existing, and I'm extending that. To set that off would make a havoc with the structure, would play havoc with the structure, because I'm trying to contain it. It's a really modest house. In my opinion, it shouldn't have had this remodeling. I explained, I'm sorry, and the 2 of the members were not present, but the owner has to stay here because of family reasons. They own 3 houses. The mother lives with them. The sister lives across the street.
Sorry, before you continue, one question. What was your suggestion then?
The suggestion was to offset it, and I tried that.
Offset this
second
volume,
floor.
right?
This way.
Articulation.
We were trying to see if
You need to
offset
speak
that.
on the mic.
Yeah, but that just. And I also studied Mr. Malekjan's suggestion of a side sloping roof, but that got us down to a 4-foot height. It's just there is no room within that 28-foot height to do anything of that sort. So what we did is we blended the roof, because we've been through a trip on this project. Started with the roof, and then we did this one, and finally that one. What I would like to show you is the next door house.
Oh, that's the next house.
Yes.
Which goes-
Which goes in here. That's what you have, essentially. You have a canyon there, and you can't see any of this. This is totally invisible.
You're showing them at the same elevation, but your site plan shows it, that you're progressing past.
Oh, they have the same
Go
elevation.
back on the microphone. Back on the microphone. Yeah, or front if you want to come up front.
Existing elevation.
Come up front.
The neighbor.
Yes.
'Cause I'm just mentioning because the site plan is showing it where the existing house is back, the distance. Is that
I
incorrect?
see existing elevation.
On the top
It
one,
is
you're showing
exactly
house-
here. It has a 4-foot addition later on, but the corner is in line with that window.
Right, but your addition is out in front of that.
My addition is in here, basically.
But your model is showing it, that you're going all the way
I
down.
may be incorrect on the site plan. This lines up, and
There's an overhead photograph right there. No, in your hand, right there. That should be able to give you guys perspective.
This is
I just want to understand from his model. Is the model correct or is the site plan correct?
Isn't this the same elevation as you have on your existing?
Because there are identical homes. There are copies of each other almost.
Does the house go all the way to the back like the other, or?
No, it doesn't. I think they line up in the front, and this does not go in there. So
that's
the drawing
correct.
is more correct, yes.
It's like this.
Okay, no, I'm just was wondering which one.
By the way, this is an aerial
Eric,
picture.
look at the photo right there. That probably give us a little idea, too.
Right, no, he brought in a model. I just wanted to know which was correct. That's all.
I didn't think you could all park together.
So we took the gingerbread out of the front columns. I came up with a more, what I would call a wood detail for the columns. We have taken the trellis on the other side, which I felt was blending the roof, but we took that off. And we took the balcony on the second floor, which at one time I had proposed, to take the aggression out of that two-story element. So I've created a small balcony on the side for them and take the aggression out of the front, because I had two balconies and I took one off. So it's less of an aggressive elevation. On the sides, I have only one little window. It doesn't see anything. By the way, I had a neighborhood invitation. I invited all the neighbors to come in. Nobody showed up. The only person who showed up was the next-door neighbor who wants to do a remodeling similar to ours. That's the bottom line. Everything matches. We are not touching any of the landscaping. We are keeping the same footprint. This is almost the only chance in this house to go up, because there is a laundry room which I'm turning into a stair, and I'm trying to live with the same walls and to make this remodeling somewhat reasonable, because, and honestly, it's a very modest, but it is going to tear up a lot of stuff in the foundations and all of this.
I have a question.
Okay,
May
good.
I? Can you explain one more time when you started your conversation in regards to Mr. Baladian's suggestion that stepping the master, this section in, why is not that possible?
I have no room to go back because the living room is 2 stories. I can't take the stair anywhere back.
No. We're not talking
Can I ask one question
Yes.
to piggyback on yours? Because that's actually my question. You can address them both if I ask
Okay.
it. Maybe. I'm just looking at it, and I apologize for not being here at the last meeting. I apologize for that. But couldn't you take the master bedroom and the bathroom and just flip them, which would have given you a notch at the back, and the net result would have been?
I don't have enough volume. If I did that,
Say volume.
it would make. May I answer the question?
Yeah.
The only area of this house that is really visible is from the driveway side, looking at the house, and I have tried to preserve. This is the only view of this house that is visible, and I've tried to keep this profile untouched as possible. I've tried to maintain this and push this mass in. So the smaller mass is here and the larger mass is there. If I flip them, this would come in here and it would be a more obtrusive volume in here. While I have this element already, and I made the roof steeper than it is now, a more Tudor-style roof, and I have made it more vertical, which is something in the vernacular of the Tudor style.
It is.
Sir, may I have the stick, please? And I understand your comment, and we'll talk about that side first. Let's talk about it on the right side first. My thought is not even flipping this or anything. Right now, this section right here, when you look at this is the space that you've created here, right above here, correct?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a piece of space that I've used, correct.
So what happens if this closet space comes in here and your entrance comes in and this section, this wall comes aligned with this and your balcony extends over? Essentially, you're not moving any of the stairs, we're not moving any of these, and your closet goes right in this space right here.
I'm then changing more of the floor because presently I have a ceiling structure and has to be turned into a floor structure. Where I'm going out, I have a chance
You're already doing that.
No, but you're going further back. It means that I'm tearing into the spaces behind it
Right
and
here.
having to change all the roof structure to create a floor structure there.
But this is right here we're talking
There-
about, correct? So this whole thing, as you shaded at one of these elevations, you shaded right here. All of this has to be created as new, because this section of it, you're cutting this whole
Yes,
thing.
there's a wall underneath, and I'm going to the wall and doing my work in front of that wall. Anything behind that, I would have to
There
go.
is a solution, it's just matter of the issue that we...
It's a matter of how much of the house are you going to really tear up for a very modest addition, frankly.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. I don't believe there's any other cards for this project, is that correct? Okay.
There's also a detail through the window if
Up here.
the board has any
Up
interest
here.
in it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The model was very helpful. Thank you. Okay, whose turn was it? So Jean-Pierre's. No, you
think
your
I
point.
started-
I did it again. There you go. Please, please.
No,
Don't take his turn.
no, I think actually the house has made a lot of improvement over the previous proposal. Unfortunately, I think I was absent. How long ago was it?
December
Oh, December. Okay. No, that's
Sorry,
fine.
it's fine.
No, but I think first when I looked at the previous one, I thought that was the new one. But I'm glad that you have made the changes. I have only one suggestion actually. The part that really becomes very different from everything else that the house does is, I think, I don't know if you can see it from there, but it's this corner. It becomes, I think the success of the new proposal is that everything have started to kind of really blend in and find a language that the house follows. And then all of a sudden this becomes such a modern corner that has a flat roof, and I think part of it is existing, right?
It is existing.
But I think there's an opportunity to maybe if there's a flat portion, and I'm asking, would it be possible to turn that into a terrace? That instead of having only a partial balcony, why can't you make the whole thing into it?
May I answer that?
Sure.
I am trying to minimize the rail because that was an issue with the board. And I was trying not to bring that rail and take it. Once I turn the corner, Mr. Zarifian, then I run into the roof. So I have a rail that is not what I want, but it is there, and the owner wants not to spend the money. And I take that back, and they have to triangulate and blend it into a roof. So in order to not do that, I pushed the balcony and limited it to the one corner, to be very honest with you. The owner would like your idea. But I think that bringing the rail to the edge of the house and having to go in and run into a roof is not the greatest idea for that site.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's just the piece that I can't really kind of make sense out of is that this is such a flat and it's just such a different language from everything else that I see in the house. That I wish there was a way, for example, the columns in front, if there are columns, then can they be similar? Or maybe this really becomes such a very horizontal piece that it disengages itself from the columns, so the columns become pillars that hold this very horizontal piece. And this turns into like a real porch that has its own kind of character. I think this part of the house just completely.
I'll be happy to duplicate the columns.
We'll talk at the end. You can talk at the end. Yeah.
But I think generally I don't have big problems even with the big height that it has created. I think the house has gained a lot of character somehow to me. it's kind of starts with a big mass and then starts to become. It's almost like the roof. The roofscape is a landscape of its own. It's very interesting kind of change. So if there could be a solution that really integrates this into the rest of the house, I think that's the only. It's a detail issue. How you make that.
You can talk at the end. You can talk at the end. You can talk at the end.
Different. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
So my point of view is that the building has moved in a direction that it almost needs the mass to start to kind of change into these valleys and then break down and get to the street front and become of a different scale. That's in a nutshell.
First of all, I think I'm glad that we made Mr. Sarkisian remove the trellis. I think that was a definite negative towards what ultimate achievement of this building wants to be. With all due respect, I do disagree in regards to the pushing back. I think there is a solution. I think there's always an argument, but I think we're here to look at the design and find the way that we feel that the design is appealing. I personally don't have a problem with the two-story volume. I was just trying to find the solution for Mr. Baladian that I just saw that there is a solution if we go towards that direction. I think that the volume that it's created, it is interesting. My problem is the repetitiveness of the windows, the quality of the windows, and the architecture that it's trying to be versus the materials that it's existing and it's kind of being forced into. I have a problem. I have a major problem with the railings. I have a major problem with the windows and the quality of the windows. At one point, I really want to see that volume really be a two-story kind of like a window, like the top and the bottom windows are connected to each other, or somehow it's just this large accentuated volume. My other problem is the residual of these effects that we still have lingering around, which it's part of this, but once you start looking at the perspective, you understand why it's there. And the reason that you're not really seeing that is because of all of this attachments, and I agree with you. I think if these are away, then you start seeing these volumes and then the roof and all of these elements there. I think the railings are horrendous, and unfortunately he was inherited with this design, and what the problem is that all the new addition is trying to match what's there, which is just a little piece of it, and then the creating this large volume with this and everything else, and I think it's just adding more to it. I think, if removing this is definitely a positive sign. I think the lights need to go. I think a character needs to come to this. I think Mr. Baxter, I think at one point you mentioned the Tudor style, which the Tudor style is it's fine. If this is a Tudor style, which the only thing that somewhat dictates it's the pitch of the roof, which is not even anywhere close to that. Tudor style has its details, it has its sidings, it has this breakup of the plaster, which this is pretty much a plaster box. So I think this area I have a major problem with still. I think it's much better than what it was. I think a lighter solution at this end was much nicer than a solid solution, but I definitely think this needed to go, which I really like that. And at one point I was thinking maybe even if we agree that we want to keep this volume, maybe the balcony needs to be pushed back so that this volume is there, and this balcony railing needs to be a lot lighter, less of a presence, and we may want to even think about just completely removing this.
Yeah, I think something needs to happen because having a balcony next to a flat roof is.
It just doesn't. It doesn't happen.
I think I have a solution.
Okay, and if you do, I mean, I'm glad you guys have, but I see the problem, but one solution would have been just taking this, push it back, have the balcony extend over, and create a balcony there. But again, I kind of like this. I kind of like that, but I don't like the windows. I don't like the window selection. It just seems like this. It's a leftover of what it was. It's just a sliding door. It's a huge sliding door, but it's not. It has to be fixed glass, I guess.
No, it's a door. He has that railing.
What railing?
That's his detail.
French door is also opening.
Where? Oh, this?
Yeah.
This is the detail for here.
Yeah.
The rendering
There's
is.
a railing inside.
No, the railing's inside.
Forget
railing
that.
inside. It's not the railing outside.
There's railing outside.
I think we need to definitely look at that. I think then, if details are being forced to make a design happen, such as this detail, I think that there's definitely
Problem.
No, it can be done.
Am I next?
You are next.
Well, there's improvement from the last meeting. I mean, there's still some issues for me, in my opinion, to support this project. But I have some solutions. I still think there's room for articulation. I think the problem is, I'm happy that we got rid of the trellis. I think the problem is this becoming almost the most dominant elevation of this house. The front has we don't have anything. This area, I think the problem, what we were talking last time is, I think the articulation, fine, if he doesn't want to push this elevation back, I think he needs to push at least at this point, a little bit in. And then this area, which is almost, I don't know how thick it is, it's very like the flat roof area, which is a problem. I think by articulating that deck, whatever that level, maybe 12-inch in, that will create some articulation, and then introduce a mix of parapet high, a flat parapet high, make this a true deck area, like Mr. Zaripian was saying, utilize that with the thicker parapet height ending towards where the roof is, existing roof. And then maybe bring some kind of Mediterranean / Tudor design will make this element much better. And then he needs to work up with these columns, I don't know, create something, introduce more Mediterranean. It's kind of too boxy right now at this corner. I think he needs to play with articulation.
The scale,
the
column, the proportion of
Yeah.
the column versus the. Just looks
The
like
railings, I don't know. I have problem with the railing design, but I can't. But I have more problem with this area. I think he needs to address it, because this elevation, if you look at it, where are we? Over here. I think it's an interesting room area. I mean, second floor. I mean, it's becoming a nice. It's the master. I mean, it's the master bathroom, and it has a balcony. I don't know. It's such a nice place to go outside and enjoy that deck. I don't think so. He's celebrating that space yet. I think you're just ignoring it. I think you should open up talk to the client. I think you need to celebrate and make that area, that space, more user friendly and inviting. Right now, it's like it's nothing. I mean, and I still think, I know you're talking about the economics, that it's hard for you to articulate because you want to save. I mean, it's a modest house, but without moving this stair, just shifting this even, you could do it. I mean, I don't think so. It will add additional hardship in construction, and that will solve the problem.
with articulation from the other side to avoid this whole big blank wall. I don't know. That's my comments.
Okay. It looks like what you've, I don't actually think the 3D is correct. I think what's happening is, and you did it on the model also, you're showing this element, the porch element, as at finished floor height of the second floor. Where on the picture, it's more of what porch height would be, which is, it's almost at door and window height. So consequently, I think the 3D doesn't help you, because it's making that lintel, which is already thicker in reality,
Can I see that?
thinner. See, it's up at head height, like header height. It's not as high as shown on the 3D.
Right above the window.
Yeah, this is shown higher in the 3D.
That's articulation.
So consequently, it's making the difficult thing worse. And
Then if that's the case, then the balcony is going to be sitting higher than.
yeah, it would. But I think what I think might be helpful is that, and I'm glad you did the models, very helpful. If you see this pitch right here, it's going on a longer distance, and you take that same pitch and just put a hip roof right in here at that same pitch. So this would all be pitched roof. It would be down lower, and then it wouldn't matter that that element is lower, and that then the balcony is the element that pushes through the roof structure, so we can get roof, hip roof on this corner. And it would probably come up right about where the window is now, but you don't need the windows as low as you have them. They're countertop windows, so for the bathroom countertop. So these could be lifted up slightly
You're
to allow the
actually
pitch.
saying a hip towards the back.
Yeah, you're pulling a hip right in here, pitching here and pitching here at this pitch. You see that?
Yeah, I was thinking that this could just hold all the way if possible.
I was saying to avoid a flat roof, fighting the style. So I think by doing that, there is the problem that second floor is going to be higher and the balcony is going to be higher. So you would generate a lot of area here, kind of bulkiness above that. So.
I was hoping that you push and then utilize that space.
Well, he's saying they don't want.
The flat area is exactly at the at the floor level. The original roof sloped further down, but since I'm walking on it, that roof now it's flat is at the floor level. Exactly.
It is now?
It is now proposed to be at the floor level. So the perspective is actually correct.
Then something's really odd.
No. What you're seeing is a roof that slopes. That flat roof, quote unquote, is a slightly sloping roof. So it begins at the edge of the eave and further slopes down.
Right.
But I'm going with a flat roof all the way back to the wall of the building at the floor level of the new bedroom.
So you're proposing a new roof for that portion?
Yes, on the deck, correct.
Okay.
And it's a walking surface, so I have to put that little roof that you see there is not something I can walk over.
Right, but I'm saying that we're having a problem with that corner.
I can lower the roof and allow the pitch of the roof to continue further out and then catch it at a lower height and lower that roof over that outside
Yeah,
deck.
to what's there now. You could lower it to what you have now.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
Other than that, I think that, again, it's trying to create a possible project for what is a modest house, and I have taken from day one exception to this terminology of Tudor. This house is a plaster box as far as I'm concerned. It has this very steep roof. The character that you see in this neighborhood is a steep roof on some vertical elements. And I have made the slope of that element steeper by this proposal just to emulate the steep roofs that but other than that, it's a plaster box, and I have never attached. Now,
thank you very much.
The columns were obviously totally out of the question, and we've removed those and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much. All right, in terms of the windows, it looks like the windows, those were permitted, the ones that are on it now? Do we know that?
No.
They weren't permitted.
Yeah, we couldn't find permits except for a couple of them. something happened in the year 2000, that era, when in my staff report, what I tried to show was, and see, a 126 square foot front entry and 180 square foot covered rear patio and spa were added in the year 2000. It was during that time that stuff started changing, and that didn't have permits. The windows were different things. So that's the best that we could do at this point. Yes, sir.
What is the pleasure of the board?
If you have some specifics, I have lots of ideas, but I don't have some specifics of.
Well, I don't make motions. Somebody has to make a motion.
I can go ahead and start on this thing. I think my motion would be, or I won't make the motion, but I would say for my acceptance, I think I understand, every question that we've had, the architect had an answer and had a solution for this. But I think we're all looking at the same project and we're trying to solve a design problem that I think it still needs work. One of the conditions that I want to put in is to replace the railings. It'd be a lot more simpler. My second condition would be is to step the balcony back at least a foot and completely remove the flat portion of the patio. Thicken the floor so that the structure of that balcony is thicker and the columns are a lot more substantial, and columns should be lined up with the edge of the wall, meaning this column should be placed right under this so it will support the edge of the balcony, and this whole thing comes out. So this whole section of it is out, this thing pushes in, the column comes in, this is a thicker. That is my thing. And then the other thing is that I am not sold with the sliding door with the railing behind it. I think we have a good opportunity to come up with a nice design there. I would like to see that vertical element of the windows that is created. I would like somehow this to be depicted as one volume, and the windows are placed such as maybe extruding or adding a volume around the edges or around the perimeter of the windows to create a depth. And then the windows are recessed in, and that window is part of some siding, some material, something, I don't know. But that whole thing becomes as one.
That might make it very vertical.
Yeah,
I think that's what I want to do, because if right now I think it's. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I think it's just.
No, I agree. The second floor should probably be a door, but I think tying the two together.
I think I'd rather see it off, pushed back in rather than one piece window. I mean, there'll be two vertical.
I like your motion.
Either way, I have a problem with the window with the railing behind it. So if you guys have a solution for that.
I like most of what you said. Are you open to dealing with that corner, though, if they wanted to think of a way that would be either pitching the roof or something that could do it?
The problem with adding a volume in that corner, I think it starts taking away with all the addition that they've created in the back. I think they have other lighter solutions that they can do. If we add a roof over that, or if we add another pitch roof or any other structure. So
you're open to the pitch roof idea?
I think I want to. I mean, I would be open if we.
I have a simple.
If you have like a detached kind of a trellis kind of floating there, something very simple, something like organic or something there. Because I think definitely by replacing the railings and lightening that corner, I think it's just going to be a lot lighter, a plaster box. So if you have, Mr. Zarif, you have a solution?
No, what I'd like to suggest to everyone as a solution, because I like that you specifically mentioned the moving of the column, which I think is a good thing. This column be relating to this edge, which goes back, and there's a continuity of a zone. So what I was going to suggest, I'm trying to find the easiest way to convey it. What I noticed was that this edge at the first floor, this is the first floor, is set back from this line where that edge of the balcony is, and you can see it.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
It has a column there.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you push this, you can use that space and make this really be aligned with that. Then what happens is that all of a sudden you have a zone here that by making the column belong to the balcony, underside of the balcony, then what you've done is, I'm trying to find the balcony edge here, which is
The
there,
balcony
right?
is
It's right there.
exactly.
Yeah. So then you can turn this into a trellis. Then it makes complete sense. So the balcony is part of the zone of the trellis, and then this is completed and it's aligned.
Maybe
and
the extension of the roof. Can
then what you
extend
do,
the roof
simply
and-
what you do here is extend this roof from this
Exactly.
point to this point.
Right.
Then that kind of gives you a clear definition of what's balcony, what's trellis. And
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
And is the trellis pulled back from the face of the wall?
You could, yeah, you could, so it doesn't touch the wall, so the edge of the roof reads clearly.
Face.
Oh, you mean from the? Yeah, you can detail it in a way that doesn't become like the wall. It becomes its own thing. I have a sketch here. I can, but I think if you simplify that, then the balcony happens within the zone of the trellis, and there's a kind of a zone, clear zone.
Keep it brief, yes, go ahead.
First of all, I don't have a problem with Mr. Malek's suggestion of pushing the balcony back. That's not a problem. I think it's a balcony, it's a roof, and it can be anywhere. And I fully agree. We can push that. And I think Mrs. Arifian's suggestion is also very possible. And I think both of those, so we can get going on this thing. It's a client that we've done a big building for, and we're doing this, and we're just
Thank
going
you very much.
spinning wheels on this little thing.
Thank you. Okay, in terms of the windows, how do you want to treat the windows? If it was, obviously if it wasn't permitted, we have flexibility on it, but what's the feeling of the board?
Whatever Alan and
Sorry. What is it?
The windows, we're done with that permit, and they're a very minimalist style, not even an external applique for the grids.
Are they all changed?
Interior appliques, actually, but they're appliques.
Yeah. Not on the exterior.
No, they're not on the
Yeah. Also, if you look at proposed front, it's that very bottom, not below.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Malekian about the sliding doors. I think those are so prominent. They need to be the right thing. They just, I would at a minimum just address those windows. The rest, if they're consistent, I think they're.
But is it okay with the French door that just has the small bottom, or do you want to have a
No,
more
I would
substantial bottom?
change those two windows to be maybe French doors or a different. The balcony being not the balcony, but the guardrail be outside of the door, and the doors open in, and.
And just do a flush railing.
Chair Garrios, can I interject here for a second? This is the second time you've heard this project, so you will either need to approve the project or deny the project
We're
tonight.
still going.
I wanted to make sure
But we can approve it
that was
with
clarified.
conditions, right?
Sure, you can approve it with conditions,
what
but
we're
I
trying.
wanted to I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so
Okay, so we're in agreement then on repitching that side roof, doing an open trellis balcony, and then I'll say it. I have a problem with the French doors. I think it's very inexpensive. The ones that just have the tiny bottoms. I would like to see a more substantial bottom to the French doors.
We're suggesting to change those.
Right, but is it to a swing door?
Yeah.
To a swing door, okay.
Well, I think the swing door is a great idea. I think what it needs to be, if we're going to do it, make those two consistent, the top and the bottom consistent, and maybe come up with a nice, very simple Juliet balcony element there that is
Yeah.
kind of attached in front of it
Yeah.
with a simpler railing. And I think if they're both consistent, a simpler light system rather than
I think simpler means that instead of being such a flamboyant kind of a rail, it could be a very soft and simpler one, right? Not a straight. You're
I
not
think
talking-
so. And I
Detailed
think-
but two-dimensional.
Yeah, I think just the combination of the color, the type, and all of that, it just makes this thing.
Okay, would you like to
Modify what? I haven't made the motion yet. Those are all conditions that I was putting.
Yeah, I think
I'm
maybe
still
maybe
thinking
if,
about my motion.
if Stephanie can.
I haven't got a clue, gentlemen. I have to
Yeah,
vote.
Make a motion
I'll
yet,
go
but
ahead
these are
and,
conditions that I'm putting in right now.
why don't I read what we have so far? I have replaced the new railings with a simple railing. The proposed, all the proposed railings, and would that also mean replacing the existing railings so that they're all consistent? And that's a condition. Let's see. There's been a lot of discussion about the solid roof over the lower floor deck. And so let me see if I could describe the solution that everyone seems to have agreed to. That deck should only be solid where the balcony on the floor above exists. It should be, the edge of that should be pushed back from the rear wall of the house, and columns, now this is where I'm going out on a bit of a limb, the columns for supporting that, okay, well, just let me finish with my understanding so I could just get it out there. Otherwise, the other enclosed portion that's shown, the solid roof portion over the lower deck, should become a pergola. The whole thing should be pushed back from the rear wall of the house, and that whatever columns are supporting that should be more similar to what's shown in the front.
Yes or no?
Yes. The front. See, the front is a very simple. This almost like, imagine this is where the balcony is, and that's the trellis on the back. The reverse of the same.
And then the roof of the building could extend in its angle where it needs to be roof, and then that trellis that would result in a lower trellis.
Yeah, the edge of the balcony and the trellis will completely be one. So the same detail that runs at the trellis runs almost, the balcony becomes part of the trellis and vice versa.
Okay, so that the trellis is not lower than the balcony, because I did hear a suggestion that sloped roof would continue on, because it does appear to go.
It would pitch up slightly or grow or something so that
Okay.
it ended at the proper
Okay.
location.
Essentially, this roof will continue and come out to be in line with this.
Okay.
So I do the right thing, please. If you turn it just.
Well, let me explain to her first, and if you can just stand there, I'll explain. So if this can come out flush with this roof, so that it's in line with this, and then the rest of it is cut off, and then the rest of it will be a trellis. That's the idea to softening this area.
Becomes a
I think
trellis.
that's what you want.
It's a trellis element
I'm
past the wall.
trying to explain his.
Do you want me to
So-
just show you? Do you want to maybe come?
Maybe you want to mark it on there or something?
No. See, the first thing is that this edge and that edge are, that with this pulled out. There's a column here that's missing. So that is a very simple. Then this becomes, balcony becomes part of this, which pushed back. But This edge would be there to there in the back. And then, sorry, the last piece,
you all were
this
looking at
will-
the model, I wasn't
The
looking
pitch
at the
will
model.
change.
Yeah, so that
So just simplify it.
The column, sir? This column here at the back? Yes, I know, but I kept referring to, I
This
keep hearing,
column should occur under the.
right under that.
Where the corner is.
In line with the building.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And the same detail as.
Yeah.
So a little bit more than just restudy the back balcony.
Okay, we may not be able to wordsmith that, but I think we understand it sufficiently to be able to work with the applicant. Thank you for that explanation.
Revise as per discussion and direction.
That's for the
Right.
tape.
And then, let's see. So I think we're clear on that. That's probably the largest issue that we've heard about. We also heard, in regards to that deck, to make a thicker detail rather than a thin one, and that it's now more like a wood details rather than plaster details. Then on the windows, there was especially the windows at the rear face of the two-story portion, to recess them, and on those, they should be real French doors with three-dimensional mullions, not matching what's out there, which are internal grids.
I'm not sure if we want to really make them be the other end of the spectrum, because then everything else is going to look.
Yeah, but I think what's there is not that's not a
No. I mean, we'll change it, but I think I'm not sure if we want to make them the highest end.
Okay, so you want them to be somewhat improved, but not dramatically different.
Radically different from the rest of the window.
Okay, very good.
wood appearance.
So change to real French doors. We'll just leave it at that. There'll be swing doors with the top and bottom consistent, and to create a true Juliet balcony on that upper level. So that's what we have. That's all we have so far.
On the windows, there's some windows that don't have surrounds, and they're showing them drawn with surrounds on some of the existing. So just make a note that the windows would have surrounds.
All windows should have surrounds as shown on the rendering.
So if the,
Okay. Anything else that we missed?
For those two windows, can I build it out? Because recessing the window on the first floor existing bedroom on a 12-foot bedroom is a great penalty. Can I build something out to create a feeling of recess without pushing the window in? Because the word recess came out in that statement.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word recessed. I wouldn't use it because
I mean, I don't mind building it up to get some depth, but pushing a window into an existing 12-foot master bedroom is really a
you were pushing
punishment.
it now. You were showing it pushing it now.
No, I have not. Those windows are essentially nail-on windows, and I have repeated them on top of each other.
Good.
I don't even mind taking Mr. Malakian's suggestion and creating an architectural connection, such as some Tudor architecture has, which is a wood piece or something that connects the vertical elements.
It would be a two-story bay window, which I think is too much.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, okay.
I think if you want to,
I don't know that it's necessary to recess.
Or to build something around it to get some depth is okay. That's okay. It's in the backyard. I can do it. I have a room. I don't have a...
Your deal.
Thank you.
You're the window guy.
I don't think it needs to be recessed. I don't think it needs to. I just think that the fact that it's a proper door that has a jams and whatnot to it. Yeah, I don't think that's necessary.
So we're eliminating that as a condition that those two doors should be recessed into the wall, that they should simply be French doors, both top and bottom, and somewhat better quality than what's existing. Okay. Anything else that you'd like to add?
Top and bottom rail is consistent with a wood door. It could be a fiberglass door as long as it had it. They're showing it the minimal aluminum
Okay, the
frame.
top and bottom rail of the door itself should be consistent with a French door.
Right.
Yes.
What about the lamps, the outdoor lamps?
Those are gone, right?
No, they're still being.
Oh, the bottom ones? Okay.
Well, all of them, all the lamps that you can see here on the elevations and everything.
So revise
I
the
think
fixture choice
would
to a
like
simpler.
A lot simpler, less
Okay.
ornate, less of this.
Right. I remember that's what Mr. Malikian had mentioned.
It's a simpler.
Simplify.
Simple.
Yeah, and that's usually the.
Okay, do we need that read back?
Well, we just read it back. What we now need is a motion.
Okay, I was to the board. That was to the board, not, staff did a lovely job the first time through. Just-
Most of the conditions are mine, so I'll say approve with conditions.
Yes.
Okay,
Is
so
there a
we have
second?
we have a motion approved with conditions,
And a second.
and we have a second by Mr. Riffian. Let's see, what is it? Okay, we have, so a roll call for an approval with conditions. Mr. Boladian,
Yes.
Mr. Malikian,
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian,
Yes.
and Mr. Gergos.
Yes.
That would be 4-0 approved with conditions.
Take this away.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item E.
This is away from me.
Item E, 2 PDR
I'm
2010.
going to take a quick break. I need
We
to
are
get
taking a
the
quick
planner.
break. Come on back. Come on back.
You want to take a 5-minute break?
I need to get the planner.
I think
5-minute break.
we'd like to.
Yeah, for the time.
Okay, we are back. And moving on to item E, 2 PDR 2010-001-A, 10600 Rosedale Avenue, with Mr. John.
The applicant is submitting this project.
Is your mic?
Turn your microphone on.
You got the call?
Good evening. I'm just going to start over again. Mr. Chairman and board members, the case before you is located at 1060 Rosedale Avenue, case number 2 PDR 2010-001-A. It's being submitted for the first time for final review. Just a bit of a history. The project was previously reviewed by this board on June 24, 2007. It's been a while. The composition of the board was different, so some of you may not have seen this project when it came the first time. The property is located in the Grandview neighborhood, and it is bounded by West Glen Oaks Boulevard and San Fernando Road. This street consists of numerous Spanish-style homes, some of which were designed with a flat roof and others were designed with pitch roof. The existing property is also a Spanish-style house with a flat roof and parapet throughout the entire structure. The project is simply a facade renovation. The biggest change would be to the roof style. The applicant is proposing to change the flat roof to a pitched roof. The existing garage, located at the back, was built with a pitched roof. So under this proposal, the two structures would be the same. The structure, the lot was developed in 1927. And as based on the project description, the site planning of the project will remain unchanged. The garage will stays where it is, and the house as well. The biggest change based on the renovation would be to the mass and scale. As previously stated by the board, that the board had expressed some concerns in this area, in that the increase in building height caused by the pitched roof makes other areas disproportionate with the residents, causing concerns over building scales and proportion. Additionally, the project takes on appearance of a two-story residence. As you can see on the drawings pinned behind you under the old plans, there were major concerns in this area. And the board suggested at that time that the height be lowered and or the pitch of the roof be revised. Based on the revised drawing, the proportionality and scale of the project have been addressed and show marked improvements from the earlier proposal. This is to credit the applicant, who has acquired a professional consultant to help him package this project and present it to you this time. However, even though there's improvements in the overall project this time around, staff still feels that there's still some unresolved massing concerns overall. This is because probably the desire is to maintain the footprint of the house as is. However, the applicant is changing the roof style. Therefore, these two desires seem to be at odds without making other changes to complement the overall renovation. The building design and detailing would also change. The applicant proposing to use new windows, obviously new tiles, which at this time, as reflected on the elevation drawings, do not match the existing tiles on the garage. It's in a darker color, and the garage roof tile is reddish tone. So staff is suggesting that these two tiles be the same. And also the design is introducing arches to the facade, particularly at the front, which they do not exist right now. So these are some of the changes overall, but the biggest change, as I stated earlier, is to the design of the roof. Generally speaking, the applicant has attended to the majority of the board's concern from the previous review. There were quite a few items that were given or suggested to the applicant back then. Some of these conditions and considerations were addressed. Others were deleted from the project altogether, and some have not been fully addressed in staff's opinion. Overall, staff recommends that the project be returned for redesign due mainly to the massing and scale concern, particularly in the roof style. As you can see on the elevation, the side elevation, the side-facing gables appear to be too wide. And if you look at the perspective, which are pinned on the bottom of the panels, there's an area in the back of the house that is expressed with a flat roof. And it is the opinion of staff that this area has not been fully integrated into the overall design of the house. So with these concerns, staff recommends that the project be returned for redesign with some recommendation. At this time, if the board would like, I can read over the condition that were expressed at the previous meeting in 2007.
Yes, please.
Okay. So comment number 1. By raising the height of the house, other areas became disproportionate with the house. There is concern over scale and proportion. Since the last DRB meeting, as I stated, a professional consultant was hired to help the property owner address this issue. There appears to be an improved mass and scale overall, but additional modifications in this area are necessary for a well-designed, cohesive project. 2, instead of the half-inch grooves, maybe provide a planter under the bedroom window instead. This is the room facing the street next to the covered entry. This element has been eliminated altogether. Number 3, the project feels like a 2-story house. Consider lowering or change the roof pitch. This has been addressed. As you can see also, the overall building is lower than what was previously proposed. Consider centering the entry door under the arch. This was also addressed. 5, narrow window selection, window types and window manufacturers. Vinyl windows are inappropriate. Consider upgrading the windows or reuse some of the existing wood windows. The new windows proposed are aluminum clad. However, most or all of the wood windows will be removed and will not be reused. There are some windows on the side elevation that have been replaced previously and will be retained. Those, I believe, are aluminum windows. Recess the windows or incorporate some appropriate window surrounds. The new windows will be recessed and no window surrounds will be incorporated. By recessed, in this case, staff meant that they will be recessed within their own units. Consider using a French door instead of a window for the living room. This suggestion has not been incorporated into the revised project. The revised project drawings still show a window instead of the suggested French doors. 8, be more cohesive and unified in design. The revised submittal shows a marked improvement in the overall design. This proposal appears more cohesive and unified in its designs as reflected in the improved scale and proportion. 9, provide tile sample. This was not provided since it's no longer part of the project. And then there were staff comments that were included and adopted by the board, which are the front facade appears to be overwhelmed by arches, which included the archways, the arch doors, and arched windows and shutters. So this has been readdressed as well. So as you can see, that a lot of these arch elements have been removed, with the exceptions of the arches over the entry. The height of the front-facing and rear-facing gables are too high and appear to be out of proportion with the rest of the house. The disproportionate gables have been corrected by changing the pitch of the roof, but the concern still exists, as stated earlier, with the wide side-facing gables. The banding around the column is not appropriate for the wall to the right as shown on the front elevation. This is reflected on the old drawings. Front. That has been removed. The half-inch groove, that's also been removed. New decorative tiles will be used for the floor of the covered entries and under the window. The tiles have been removed from the design. And windows are not consistent in styles and shapes. The majority of the windows are shown with divided lights, while one window in the front will be plain glass. So there's some uniformity in the window selection. The divided lights have been removed in the new proposal. Fascia boards are not being used consistently throughout the house and appear to be randomly placed. All overhangs will be finished with fascia boards consistently throughout the perimeter of the house. Number 18, the southwest wall appears to be too high, making the windows disproportionate to the wall. This also has been corrected due to the change in the roof pitch. And 19, the windows do not appear to have depth and lack relief. Again, they will be recessed but within their own units. This is concerning the new windows. And 20, the Spanish colonial revival style is consistent with many homes on the same street and neighborhood. So this style is appropriate. However, it lacks the authenticity and cohesiveness of this design. So the following are new conditions that are recommended by staff. 1, the massing of the building and roof design have not been fully addressed and require further consideration, particularly the wide side-facing gables and the flat roof portion of the house located at the rear. 2, sliding windows and doors should not be used, particularly along the front elevation since it is visible from the public right-of-way. The windows should be casement or double hung or a combination thereof. 3, the 2 arches at the front should not terminate above the fascia board. I just saw this discrepancy. The reduced drawing reflects what the comment is saying, but on the full-size drawing you can see it's different regarding the arches. The 2 arches at the, for 2-piece tiles should be used, not the proposed S tiles. The roof tiles should match in color and style for both the house and garage. And 6, the side lights on either side of the entry door appear wide. The wall design and proportion would benefit with narrower side lights. 7, the round vents facing the street should not be provided with a glass pane. Horizontal slat with decorative wrought iron over it would be more appropriate. And 8, entry door should be constructed of solid wood, stained dark, possibly a door with a peekaboo opening with decorative wrought iron would be more appropriate. And 9, the windows located on the north and south elevation are too small. Their sizes and patterns should be addressed further. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any
It looks
questions.
like the front elevation isn't consistent. I mean, the reduction I think is correct because he's sloping the pitch down lower, so it would actually be lower down to the arch.
The reduction
I think
is
the
correct.
direction is correct because it wouldn't have the condition of the. He's showing it on the left side elevation that it's coming down below, but
Okay.
I just think that one is. I believe that's incorrect. We'll find out. Any questions for staff? No. Okay. Seeing none. Ron Levy. Please state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Ronnie Levy from Studio by Design. The address is 10935 Camarillo Street in Toluca Lake, California. I'm a designer of this project. Took over from the owner who tried to do it himself 3 years ago. As you heard, I think most of the recommendations were addressed. And I think the only quote-unquote problem that staff has is the wider pitch. The rest of it, if you look at the recommendation list, which with some of them agreed, can be incorporated into conditional approval. But looking at the massing of the building, I think it reduced dramatically from the original proposal that was done by the owner 3 years ago. And I don't know why there is a problem to start with the wider gable. I don't think it does any disservice to the style of the house. Actually, a wider or flatter pitch to those Spanish-style houses is more common than steeper pitch. We're proposing to basically leave it white as it is with darker. We can match the garage color. I think the owner will accept it, even though it's really a reddish tile. So I don't think replacing the entire garage tiles will be, considered by the owner due to financial hardship. But we can wait and consider it. Other than that, I think the project is very simple. It speaks by itself. You'll see tons of houses in the neighborhood, even in the street, that incorporate pitch roof with flat parapet roof as well. So there is a clash between pitch and parapet flat roof at the back, which is not visible from the street, but I don't even think it's present any design problem. I think the opposite. It's enhancing the character of the house, other than doing disservice to the character of the house.
Is there a reason why you just didn't widen the back gable to incorporate the flat roof?
Because it's an odd shape, and it is what it is. We're not proposing to do any addition or pushing walls out. There is an angular wall there. Putting a pitch over an angular wall will cut it in an odd shape. So I think it's just natural to keep it flat, and all the rectangle portion around it gabled. It's just natural to me.
Mr. Garagos, have a question?
Yes, please. Actually, let me ask one question. You agree that the reduction is correct and that the front elevation is not correct?
Yeah, I do agree.
It should be lower.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
We
just to
should see
clarify.
the fascia coming much lower than the...
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
You have these sliding doors in the rear elevation that it's off the floor, off the grade about 3 feet. What is that about? And you do the same thing with the windows in the front. It's sitting right on the floor line.
Well, the sliding door at the back, which is 3 feet above the floor, actually was installed by the owner. So back then there is no landing there, because I don't think it will pass the building department. It's just across the in front of the garage entry. So this is something that I inherited. I mean, the owner wanted to maintain it. I guess, if the board will recommend to make it as a fixed window or any different opening,
Well, first of all, you're not going to be able to pass that's...
You're right. I agree with you. I mean, it's kind of like...
You can't put a step there, so obviously, because then you're going to encroach into the backup. The other question that I have is, my assumption was that all these windows that I'm looking at, I thought that we're replacing them, but what you're saying is it's an existing, you want to keep that? Can I see it? Is that what you're saying?
It looks like they're all changing.
Yeah.
It seems like they're all being changed, right?
They're all different than the picture.
Right. They're all
Okay, so
changed,
if they're being changed, then why are we putting the same thing, same illegal type windows in the back and in the side, or on the side, it's 1 foot off the ground, you're putting the windows, I don't know how that's going to work, but the ones in the front of the house, and that's the
Why is it illegal? I don't understand. What's illegal in these windows? You said illegal?
You're about 2.5 feet off the ground. You're opening up a door, and the back is 3 feet off the ground. You're opening up a door, and where are you going to jump down 3 feet?
I don't think we are 2.5 feet off the ground on the
That's
front.
what you're showing.
3 feet.
At the front?
You have 3 feet and you have 2
No,
foot 4
the-
inches in the front.
No, actually the property sloped towards the back, so the back is higher than the
That's what
front.
you're showing right here.
Your drawing says
Why are
2
you
foot
arguing?
4.
This is 2 foot 4.
It says 2 foot 4.
You're arguing, and you got another 6 inches there. That's what you're showing.
Okay.
So, so I think we're replacing it. I think there's a nice opportunity for us to go ahead and come up with a nice design, but we'll
But the
talk
2.5
about that.
feet is from the window sill, not from the finished floor. Isn't that?
You're showing you 2 foot from the finished floor, 2 foot floor down to the grade. Right? It's your drawing, so.
Anyhow, and then my other question is that I'm not sure what we're doing as far as the windows. You're showing the back of the window, what you're going to see on the inside of the house, but what are we going to see on the outside? And I'm not understanding. Is it going to be white aluminum on the outside?
Aluminum clad, right.
So it's going to be white on the outside, and you got a white window. So you got a white window with white stucco.
Yes.
Okay. And then the tiles that you're proposing, this is the color or what you've sketched?
This is the color.
This is the
sample,
color.
Right.
Okay. And it's a one-piece S tile?
Correct.
Okay.
Are we replacing the windows or not?
We are replacing all of them.
They're all changing. They're all changing.
Okay. That's all my question.
Any other questions for applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak on this project? Seeing none, we'll open it up for the board. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, please. You can fill out a sheet afterwards, too. Great. State your name and address.
Thank you very much. Roy Lopez, 1060 Rosedale Avenue, owner of the house. Addressing what Mr. Malikian was talking about in the front, that is a fixed window. That's not an entryway. Where the gable is, the one he's talking about with that 2.5-foot drop, that is a fixed window.
It says sliding window on the
Or
plan.
it could be a sliding window, but it's not an entry window. You don't go in or out.
It doesn't matter. When it goes to the floor, you can still fall out of it.
Okay,
That's the
so
idea.
then it'll have to be a fixed window then. That'll take care of that. In the rear, which was also talked about, the 3-foot drop. Okay, these plans were originally, about 20 years ago, submitted, and I had a building permit, and all I got built was the garage.
Can't speak to what was done then. We're just showing
Well,
what
when
we have now. So.
what I'm trying to point out is on the original plan, that was a patio door was approved, and just outside that door were semicircular steps.
Yeah.
So that has a landing and has steps to go down. It's not a drop.
Right, the plans we have don't show that.
Right, that has to be put on the plans.
Right, it's not on the plan, that's what I'm
The
asking
original
about.
plans, the architect has the original plans, he'll stick it on there. But it was just something that was neglected.
Address.
Please.
Yes.
Mr. Lopez, you must understand, we're not the building officials, we're not plan checking. As a courtesy, I'm showing that to you.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you have done in the past, what you're showing right now, you're replacing it, and from, as a courtesy, we're telling you this is not going to pass with the building and safety.
Right.
So when you go back and they say it's not going to work, and they're going to change it, I'm going to put a condition that as slightest bit of change on this glass door, you're going to have to come back here.
Yeah.
So as a courtesy, I'm telling you right now that this thing doesn't work. So that's the courtesy.
I'm just pointing out, I can show you the vellum, and it shows the steps. So that's what they're going to get.
Mr. Lopez,
They will pass it.
I'm not questioning that. I'm
If the
sure
plans,
you're right.
if the plans showed steps, everything would be fine.
Yeah.
The plans don't show steps, which brought up the issue.
Right. So when we come back, you will have the steps on there.
Were those steps approved?
It doesn't matter.
I'm not sure because it would matter now because if they were not approved, I don't know that there's enough backup room to allow steps now.
Well, how that would
Well, let's go.
Okay.
Let me ask you, the garage size.
Thank you very much.
is that
If you could fill out the form, please.
The garage, the 33 feet, is that a normal size for that time? I mean,
I'm not sure what 30
garage,
feet
the dimension, 33 feet, that's maybe
deep.
that. Yeah,
That's fairly deep.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
that appears to be an oversized garage, but that was built with a permit.
The what?
The garage was built with a permit.
not
But you are
showing
right,
it.
it appears to be an oversized garage.
That's why maybe, I'm trying to diagnose it, maybe that's why
Oh, I
it's
see.
too close. You see what happened? They extended the garage down.
Right.
So they killed that deck, that they used to have a deck probably from that door out. So they removed the deck, if the existing deck, and they extended the garage to 33 feet.
Okay. Well, it also, we need to show the radius on the site plan and the door size and all that, because it looks like the radius, there's a problem with the radius, so. Okay. Do you want to start?
I'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
First of all, I kind of sad not to see these kinds of details because I really enjoy seeing hand detail. I think it's an amazing detail that you've originally submitted, so I really learned a lot about what it was being proposed. I think it got a lot simpler. Unfortunately, I don't have a section, so I'm not really seeing exactly how this new roof being attached to the existing parapet. So I can't really address the height of if it's being raised up higher or it can be lowered. With the original or the previous sections, we could have had a lot of discussion in that level. But to me, I think there's a set of concerns that I have that it's missing, and I think at a level of the details that I want to see, having a white aluminum against a white plaster, I think that's really not the intent of the style of architecture that we're trying to achieve. I think I would have liked to see darker windows against a lighter background. The contrast. The reason that I started talking about those windows in the front, that's the predominant elevation that most people are going to see. And the arches that it's been created for the entry, that becomes like a secondary plane. And the entry is not as accentuated as what that front volume wants to be. And I think there's a very nice opportunity there, being that now that the owner suggested that it's going to be fixed glass. I think it can be a very interesting form of fixed glass rather than depicting a sliding window or a casement window. I think it can be a shape, a nice arch shape, or something there that it represents the character of that style that we want to achieve. I think when you start drawing a set of elevations and sections and you start coming up with conditions that it's really not really meant to be the way it's supposed to act, meaning those arches that are being hidden away by the roof pit, I think that tells you something. I think that tells you that you have an issue there. You have an issue that you need to address. And I think there's different ways that can be addressed, but the way that it's shown in the front elevation on our handout, I don't think that's the right approach. I think I would like to see the arches. I don't mind the arches, but I really want to see the full form of the arch and being part of it. As far as the roof and so forth, if I had the section, I would have told you, okay, you're at the limit, or there's room for us to lower that or not. So I really can't address the height of the. It doesn't bother me. So I have to put that on the table. So the way that it's laid out, I think it's fine. The back flat area that we've had several discussions, I think what I would do is if you're going to create a parapet, I would raise that parapet. I would create a volume there. I would raise the parapet, create a large parapet, and let that die in, and let the gable roof come into the side of that. That's what I would do, rather than creating at the same level as the plate height or the gutter. I think that needs to be a different volume in that level. But other than that, I think the windows, if I don't know if it was a mistake or somehow the renderings are coming out that way. I think if it was the wood or a darker color, I think that would give a really nice contrast between the white plaster that you're proposing versus the windows. But other than that, I think, again, it's a simple project. I think that more simpler it gets, it's just the fine details. And for this, it's just the windows and how you're treating them. So I think that's what I would suggest.
Jump here.
Well, in addition to Alan, I mean, now that I'm looking at it, actually, the first question I had is regarding I'm going back somehow to the old design. I mean, there are some issues needs to be resolved. It's not 100%. It looks like you're screaming. I think this will be a great opportunity to do a nice little Spanish house. I mean, it's a screaming. I like the arches on the first design. Maybe the door has symmetrical. You need to work with the symmetry. There's some symmetrical issues, the window sizes, the shutters design, and all that. I mean, we have such a we're rich of Spanish architecture in Glendale. All you have to do is drive by Rosemont area, and you could see so many amazing details, Spanish architecture. I mean, if that the first layout, but the second, the new scheme, kind of, we're not going anywhere. There's a lot of issues. It's kind of, the language is not there, and beside all the normal issues we have, windows and all that, and the roof design, it's not resolved. We have some negative areas, flat areas, roof and all that. You need to work out a much simpler roof design. But what I would recommend is, I think you need to go back to the old design, how you could fix it to nice, like Mr. Malikian said, to go with the contrast between the darker windows with the light stucco or finished plaster, with the Spanish tiles, perhaps celebrate to exposing the rafters with the dark brown. I mean, there's that quality. I mean, even the arches in front that you have from the old drawing, decorative tile, maybe a fountain there with a nice Spanish door. I don't know what is that number 35, the window, maybe that you make it more, move the door more centralized and then rework that more Spanish. Doesn't look right. The designs are not there. You need to go and spend some time driving in Glendale and take pictures of Spanish architecture, Mediterranean architecture, and see how it's nicely done, the details. And once you achieve that, and I think you'll have a very nice single-story house. The first one has problems. The second one has more problems, in my opinion. Symmetry, simplify, and stick to pure architecture and study that before you revise it. That's it.
I think I like the quality of the drawing of this. The first scheme somehow has a quality that you can see how it relates to the building. I think both schemes can be worked out to be good designs for this change to your house. I think the second the second scheme, the windows probably are the biggest problem that, aside from the issue of that volume that Mr. Malekian said, with the volume you either have to make it bigger or to become an element. This, where is
Upper left,
this one, right? This either has to become an element or the roof has to include that. As this can become a larger piece that includes that as part of what it covers. So, and then the windows kind of go in a totally different direction. You have a very Spanish house and very un-Spanish windows. So I mean, that has to come together. And I want to kind of keep it general because I think I like both schemes. I think both can be kind of adjusted to be what they should be. One suggestion that I think can help this condition is that maybe instead of letting this roof go all the way down, you can step it here so that this roof stops there and kind of continues, and then this one, there's a little wall before the porch, so you signify the porch as its own piece rather than that big roof coming all the way down. So I think it's about just little adjustments because it's a very simple project. And I think this suggestion comes from going back to the original house, that if you notice there are layers of walls, that when you look at the original design of the house, it's about some layers, so that porch becomes an additional layer in front of the house in a way. So I think it's a matter of a level of weight for the windows to be the right kind of window, the right depth, follow a Spanish tradition, and it will be just a nice, simple house.
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief. I think all those points are well covered. I don't have a problem with the pitched roof and the way that it's done. I do like the idea that was just mentioned about showing the porch as a separate element. I guess most of my issues are really with the windows and the doors. I think what you might be keying off on the existing house is that those are tall vertical windows, but it looks like they're marginal divided lights. So there's a lot going on in the window, and those are sort of kind of different from the style also. But there's a reason that they could do that kind of window, that proportion of window, tall window, which is not really within the style, but then you've taken it, you stripped off what little detailing there was, which was the marginal light, and just left the tall vertical window. So you stripped out what little interest it had to it, and now it doesn't relate at all to Spanish. So, whereas I think you could get away with it in the existing house because it had some interest to it. But once you take all those elements off, then it doesn't relate to much. But it is true, if you go through Spar Heights, there's plenty of these houses. This is one of two designs that built the whole city in the 20s. So there's hundreds and thousands of versions of this Spanish house that I think would be very helpful. And that front window, even though it is the bedroom, usually in most cases it would be a living room, and you'd have a big decorative window there. And obviously you may not want to do that in a bedroom, but you still need to do something to really play up the fact that it's the big gable there. And again, in the previous drawing, there was some ideas about trying to embellish it to that level. So something needs to be done. You do a big plaster sill. It could be a bay window within a Spanish style. I mean, there's many different ways of doing that. But it does need to be something of a layout, of an importance to that section. It's really a missed opportunity to do the small windows, and I think it, just sort of diminishes what's going on. I don't have a problem with the arches in front. I think that's fine. I do think that even though the existing house now has windows beside the door, again, I really think that those doors and windows are of a different style house, and they were kind of used in this case. It's sort of a craftsman bungalow overlay on the Spanish details of this house. So I wouldn't key off, especially since you're changing everything. I wouldn't key off the simplicity of just having those side windows and the door because it was before, because the windows that were done before had much more detail to them to make them work in their own situation. So I'd move much more towards the other drawing where you had a nice, strong wood front door, and then do a nice big picture window in the living room. And you need to play up the fact that that's a major room in the house. Whereas, like I said before, the big front gable would usually be the living room, and it would have the big dramatic window. But in this case, the living room is under the porch roof, so it would have a big picture window, and it might have a window out to the side. I'm just looking at it has I see even the fireplace isn't on the side, so you could do another big, larger picture window on the side. Again, trying to make that corner of the building special because it has the sort of public areas of the house. But just look at how the windows are done, and I think if you're trying to evoke the historic style, I think the no divided lights doesn't help you. If you were trying to sort of do some kind of streamlined Mediterranean, maybe you would go without divided lights. But I think the divided lights are going to help you bring the style together a little better. And when you do that, on the Spanish, I like to emphasize the fact that each pane is horizontal in proportion. It's not a vertical pane. So if you notice on any of the Spanish homes, you would see that, where each pane is horizontal. So if you started with that as your bag of tricks, I think, and then you looked at how the windows would happen, it would really bring the style out. I think you'd be much happier with it. Also, you're not showing any detailing around the window, which, again, I think is a lost opportunity. You can specify a window that is flush to the framing, and just the plaster is bullnosed. You don't have to do a whole framing differently. Just the window is inset. And then I'd suggest doing some kind of plaster sill on the bottom, which is just a foam detail that could be plastered. Again, just trying to give something. The whole thing about Spanish is it's a very simple structure with a simple wall, a mass. But when you come to the windows and doors, they have to be special. I mean, that's what makes the whole thing work. So I think that's what's, not there. And I think you may be keying off of the idea of the existing windows, but those existing windows really don't work in the style. They just happen to be, it was probably a kid house back in the old days, and somebody had a bunch of Craftsman windows left over, and they used the Craftsman windows in the house. But it's not, those windows aren't the Spanish style. So, anyway, how's that? Is that loose enough but not specific? Thank you. Okay. Purposely not specific? Okay. All right. Can I get a motion from somebody? Or unless there's any other comments. No? Okay.
Excuse me. There's a lack of level of detail, and there was concern about the white aluminum clad windows against the white stucco, which is not appropriate because you wanted the windows to pop against a lighter background. Therefore, the windows need to be darker in color, as well as to see the contrast against the white stucco. The front windows under the street-facing gable needs to be revised. Maybe make it more special, whether it be its shapes or the size. The arches hidden under the roof is an issue as expressed by Mr. Malakian, and that needs to be revised as well. But also staff heard from Mr. Chairman Garagos that this was not a concern. So there seems to be a difference.
It needs to be worked on.
Needs to be worked on.
You don't have a problem with arches, right? Okay. You don't want it to come up to nothing.
Exactly. I think that's what I was trying to express.
And that would show in a section also how the porch roofs would work, and all that would work with a section.
So possibly we need to see the full form of the arches.
A section through the house, right there, through the porch. Yeah.
Okay. Also concerning the back area where there's a flat roof right now, that area needs to be expressed as its own volume, and that the roof of the house should maybe end or meet at the parapet.
Either has to be a volume of its own, or the roof can cover that.
The gable could come over and incorporate it, or that flat roof needs to look separate.
Okay. And Mr. Baladian favors the previous design more so than the second design, and he feels that there's more issues with the revised design generally. And again, the darker windows, the lighter stucco is the way to go for a Spanish-style house, and possibly incorporate exposed rafter tails, incorporate tiles, and maybe a fountain somewhere to evoke that Spanish feeling. And as recommended, survey the city, particularly the Rosemont area as well as Spar Heights, to see really truly authentic Spanish colonial revival styles to get more ideas. Focus on bringing the authenticity in the detailing to this project. Windows are the biggest issue, again, expressed by Mr. Zarifian. Flat roof, we discussed about that already. Step the roof at the front to solve the arch problems, meaning creating a separate entry form. As you
Dropping the porch roof.
It was about, instead of having this big slope coming all the way to the front edge of the house, you can have a break that kind of gives a smaller scale.
You
to
just drop the porch
archway.
roof. Drop the porch roof.
Drop the porch roof or change the angle over the porch? I thought it was change the slope over the porch.
Drop it so you show a little wall right there.
You keep the same angle, but this stops and connects to that side, and then there's a little piece of wall that there's a break here that
You show a little wall between the two roofs.
yeah. I mean, it's a suggestion. It has to be worked out.
But would the new piece that's dropped be going in the same direction, parallel to
Same
the
pitch.
Yeah.
same pitch?
Same pitch. It's just dropped.
Okay.
It's just dropped.
I have
Just
two
signify
more
that.
consideration as part of whatever we're going to, instead of the S tile, consider the two-piece Spanish tile. And the window, rather than being an aluminum clad, have it be wood, stained wood, so that you have an actual wood finish
Okay.
from the exterior. Yeah.
It's consideration, yeah.
And if they're trying to achieve that, let them go to its actual.
It's hard to make somebody do a wood window.
I'm telling them it would be nice.
Okay.
They
all right,
haven't
all right.
considered it would be nice.
So, and Mr. Zarifian also expressed that the original house shows layers in terms of its design, so maybe one possibility is to include that with the new design as well.
Yeah, that was referring to the
stepping?
The stepping,
Okay.
yeah.
Again, Chairman Garagos expressed concerns over the windows and doors. These are the two biggest elements in a Spanish-style house, so they need to be really special. The front window under the gable incorporate, again, possibly a bay window there, or plaster the seal under the window to make it stand out and express itself in a special way. The window along the picture window for the living room, possibly incorporate a nice picture window. And the side lights do not appear to work in this case because it lacks the detailing. Therefore, possibly accentuate the entry door as the way to go. Regarding the windows, incorporate divided lights. Each pane should be expressed horizontally in proportion, not vertically. And detailing around the windows is another area of interest. The edges should be plaster in bullnose, and plaster the seals on the bottom. And those are the comments I got. And then the two that were added by Mr. Malekin about the stained wood windows as opposed to aluminum clad, and consideration of the S tile, the two-piece Spanish tiles.
I'll make a motion to return for redesign.
Second.
If I may, there was a concern, I think, reflected in the staff report regarding the roof as it appears at the side facing gable that's at the same plane as, the wall is at the same plane as the rear and front-facing gables. And that seemed to be, to us, not a form that didn't authentically represent the Spanish style. So I wanted to call your attention to that because that was something that staff was concerned about. Also, there's been a lot of discussion about the windows and the detailing of the windows and the type of windows used, but not about the size of the windows. And
Windows could get larger, yeah.
Okay, so on the side, they could get larger. There should be consideration to hierarchy of the windows and to better reflect Spanish style.
Reference was made as an overall look at the windows to make them relevant size-wise.
Size, placement, detail.
Traditional-wise.
So going back to your comment, the staff has an issue with, let's call the right side elevation. How would they suggest to solve that?
I think we may have, in the report, suggested some change in plane. We haven't really worked with this applicant on this design, so I, without really sitting down and looking at it, it seemed like a problem with the overall form of the project that is not so easily conditioned. So we wanted to point it out to see if the board has an issue with it, because there are...
Are you saying because of the large gable face? And then it goes from eave to gable? Is that your issue? Or, okay. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's...
Okay, if you don't have a problem with it, that's important for us to know.
I will add one more on that. I think there needs to be some addressing of the gable vents, which is another traditional feature that could help on that facade. And also on the front, either round tiles or something, or plaster vent would be great too.
Okay, and there was a mention of the potential of having a foam sill that was plastered over, and we typically discourage the use of foam.
I'd rather see wood sill.
Yeah, me too.
So,
where you guys are from?
No foam.
No, it's plastered to match the wall color. It's not treated as a separate element.
That'd be
wow. Nobody's seen that.
No, the plaster detail we've seen it as a historic detail, but staff has heard many times from the board not to use foam as a substrate. So what we're hearing is that it could be plaster or wood at the sill, but I just wanted to mention not to use foam as a substrate.
I think wood will look great with wood windows.
Thank you.
I like the wood sill with the wood windows.
Yes, I agree.
So.
If that's, I just think it's unfortunate. So.
Do we want to give the applicant a choice?
I would give the applicant a choice, and hopefully he would pick the plaster sill.
So I would also like to.
The foam is just holding the shape, and it is plastered over. Everybody understands that, right? It's plastered to match the wall. It's not treated as a precast element. Okay, just checking.
So, so we also would like to offer, and make it part of the conditions or not, that the applicant can work with staff and Jay Platt, the historic preservation planner, to assist in making an authentic design when they come back, if that's the choice of the board.
Excellent. Now, there is a motion? Somebody started one.
To return for redesign.
I second.
We have a second.
And before I...
Let's go over them again.
No, the roll call. About the staff condition, there are some overlaps with the board's comments.
I'm sure between you and Stephanie, they will be ironed out. Okay.
We're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
All right. There was a motion by Mr. Malakian and a second by Mr. Boladian. This will be roll call. Mr. Malakian?
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian?
Yes.
Mr. Boladian?
Yes.
And Chairman Geragos?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. We have two sets.
I reviewed them. which one are we going first?
We are going to go with February 25th.
I'm okay with.
I'm okay too.
We're waiting for one more. We're waiting for one more thing. You okay? Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as it's written. Yes.
Second.
Motion was made to approve the minutes of February 25th, 2010. Roll call, Mr. Malikian.
Yes.
Mr. Baladian.
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian.
Yes.
Mr. Garagos.
Yes.
Thanks. How about March 11th?
I have in regards to
Big pen. Like red pen.
where is it? Never mind. Never mind.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Anybody? He wasn't here.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second.
Motion was made to approve the minutes of March 11th, 2010. Roll call. Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Mr. Baladian?
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian?
Abstain.
And Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Thank you.
I get a motion for adjournment.
Obi?
Any staff announcements?
I have no staff announcements.
Good. Thank you.